I love that we're
All
just,
right.
I love that we're just like, fuck it, let's do it.
So, the idea is that to make sure that I have it, anything you say, give me 4 different variations.
Okay.
But the idea is the scenario is the phone call is automatically placed by Twilio.
Yep.
It rings until it's answered. He says hello, and you say,
Hey, so, okay, hold on. Got the scenario. My question is, I'm wondering if we start it with dad or mom, or do we just leave it generic, or say this is your automated question of the week?
we can record both, but
Okay.
I just want to get one call done.
Yeah.
Not 5, just one.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking. I get the idea of one call done. I'm just in my mind. I'm thinking of. Sorry. Once my mind starts thinking of the longer term thing, I have to talk it out, or I get confused and I
Okay,
forget.
yeah, go ahead.
So
Yeah.
my thinking in the process is, what if that was instead of it just being a random group of questions, what if the service was record or type in 52 questions you wish you could ask your parents or your family or whoever, and then this will call and record it, but you don't get access to it until it's printed at the end of the year. So like, or just maybe that's just another part of the service is like the surprise. So ask your parents
The
record.
surprise element is big.
Yeah, imagine that is like you're asking your parents 52 questions over the course of a year, but you don't get to see it until it's printed and sent to you.
I'll change what I said. The surprise is one level. The serendipity of the timing of the message is a completely different stratosphere. Because
exactly.
if it feels serendipitous, then oh my God.
Yes. Think about that. It's like, so, okay. Dude. Anyway.
Yeah.
Or you can just go through it. Imagine like you're going through, you sign up for the service, you go through and you check the box of the text of the questions you want your parents to answer this year. And it's all set up and ready to go. And now you get the book at the end. So that's one way. Or you could do the randomized questions. Either way. Sorry, that was just me thinking. I just needed to get that out so that I can, so it's not.
I'll give an example. Like, I'm putting it to the top. This is a different incarnation, but it's the same vibe. So my mom still had through the move, found a copy of an old Bible. And my dad, who passed away, underlined and put a curly bracket around one of the passages. And he dated it, right? So it's actually one of the last examples of his expression. Does that make sense?
That's right. And that's what I'm saying is like
that's the core.
This could be a way for you not to just get random fucking thoughts on Facebook, but to ask pointed questions of someone where they know you're not going to see it either. You're not going to see it until they die, or you're not going to see it until the end of the year, or you're not going to see it until whatever, right? We can set conditions in the platform for different scenarios. So like,
people would use this at the funeral.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many uses for it. Like, instead of you having to dig through someone's social media to find stuff and like whatever, like here's actual recordings of them. You know, one of the questions could be, what would you want everyone to know at your funeral? And you could just play that. Anyway, like that's where I think, and it has to be recorded because there's so much more emotion in the voice than there is in just written words. Okay, so we're recording questions.
Well, you're recording the moment that your dad or mom says hello.
Yeah, hold on one second. All right, go ahead. Ready?
Hello.
What is the weirdest thing that you did growing up that you would want your grandkids to know about?
So let's add an element of conversationality. So it's like, hey, Dad, how's it going?
Okay.
Pause. And then, hey, question for you. This is for Nora. And then state the question.
Okay, got it. So, hello. Hey, Dad. I have a question for you. This is for Nora. What is one of the oddest things you did growing up that you would want her to know about? Or do I need to pause longer?
Give me more of a pause.
Got it. You want it between all three sections just in case?
Um, uh, let's see how it is with pauses. Let's change
Okay.
one thing at a time.
Got it. Hey, Dad. I have a question for you. So, this is for Nora. What is one story from your childhood you want her to know about?
We got it. One more for safety.
Hey, Dad. I got a question for you. This is for Nora. What's one story from your childhood you really want her to know about?
All right. So since we're in the presence of Troy, who's in the top 0.5% of global podcasts, maybe it's. I want to see what he thinks about this because I got mine too. I can turn one of those into a wave.
Yeah, perfect. Troy, you want to come up and talk? I can explain my idea and what we're trying to do right now.
All right. Now that we've done that, I'll invite the rest of the people. Oh, there. Okay, good. They found it. Web3, the other half of it.
It's so funny that they all jumped in after. Hey, Troy, what's going on? I don't think we've talked before.
Really?
What's going on?
How are you?
I am trying to figure out what's going on, but I kind of love it, so it's not a problem. But sending positive vibes.
Let me tell you something. Zach, you and Troy would be a dangerous combination.
Well, Troy, so I had an idea for a company, and so we're trying to proof it out right now. And so the company would essentially call you and play a question that you're a loved one or that is randomly selected for you to answer, and it will record either, eventually we want it to be video recording, but it'll voice record your answers, and then it'll turn your storytelling of that answer into physical media, a book, or some type of like storybook for kids or a book with pictures in it. Essentially, there's companies that do it over email, and I think that the spoken word is so much more powerful. And so it would be really interesting if you were to be able to ask maybe once a week a question to your mom, your dad, right? Over the span of 20 years, imagine the kind of content you have to hand to their grandkids or their great grandkids to say, here's who your grandma or your grandfather or your great grandma or your great grandfather were in their own words, without having to do all this like sitting down and spend hours typing your memoirs, right? And also some of these stories degrade over time as the years go on. Your remembering of the story changes, and so maybe you can see how the story changed in their mind if you ask them the same question maybe 20 years apart. I just think it's a good way of recording personal and family histories over time. So that was the idea, and so we're proofing the model, recording questions, and we're going to start sending them to my mom and dad and see what they think and how it works.
It must be serendipity that I'm in this conversation right now. Two reasons. One, I distinctively remember during the high rise of Clubhouse in mid 2020, someone was pitching a similar, not exact, very similar idea, but they were focusing on it through an app. From that, we eventually had a conversation. I think I still have my notes still from that conversation. And I'm a person, and Mike knows this about me. Um, Ideas come to me very quickly. Like I process a lot of information very quickly. And when I send it out, that's it. If you didn't get it, you didn't get it. So most of my clients be like, yo, homie, let's record this real quick. And I took some notes. I'm working on myself. And I walked him through it. We did a follow conversation. And basically gave him a 10-year plan and probably a half an hour of everything he needed to do and how he could segment that into different businesses and different industries so he doesn't go stale, can always have cash flow. Because similar, he was more so going for the empathetic history approach, but like that same ideology can be harnessed and focused into 5 different industries that can make you multi-million dollars in like 18 months. Easy. You sell pieces of it to the highest bidder, that refunds you to do other industries, and then you get credit for owning the system, and you let other people do all the heavy lifting so you don't have to. If you can use my application in other facilities, great. I own the ecosystem, you run it, and we just run it back, kind of how Notion was. So I said all that to say this. That person has not done what I told them to do since that thing in mid of 2020 in Clubhouse. The website's down, so I don't mind giving that information to you because this is the exact same formula. But I can give you a taste of what that looks like. So I love the premise. There's a direct need for it. I think Gen Z and boomers, we're dealing with 5 generations in the workforce, right? So everyone has this need of sense of belonging and to pass down generation and pass on information. We have lost, because of technology, ironically, and social media, this sense of transferring stories for people to learn. What did my great grandmother think of this during this time? Like, cut the BS, cut the crap. What was life in that moment for them? Take me there. Intercene. I get to literally hear what my great grandmother thought at this age about this economy in this moment. Yo, was 2020 that bad? Like the pandemic wasn't that bad with the horn. We were here. Here's the recording, right? Bet. So that key point, just like insurance, right? People will pay to just have that storage in the cloud consistently forever so they don't lose it. How many voicemails have you had of loved ones that you wish to God you had them still today? Take my money now, bro, for life. $100 a month, $500 a month, family plan, doesn't freaking matter. We're paying it for life. Done. Easy, right? Easy cash flow. But what this also allows you to do is to tie in that trust factor. Facebook kind of screwed it up. People dealing with privacy right now. What better way to go old school, go analog, and worry about encryption and BS and stuff? Here's what's coming from my person's mouth. Voice message. You can't steal it. It's there, right? So you add in a component for maybe a transcription where they can read what the person is saying as an additional feature a la carte. You give the portal, you give the process. They can share it amongst their family and friends. You own all of that mechanisms in a very simple user experience. That's one mechanism. Now imagine you duplicate that same process for when people do a startup and they want to, and this is not for praise, this is for keeping logs of things that have worked, things that have not worked. Imagine you're coming into a new startup and you're now the new CMO, and the old CMO has all this backlog of information that this person now can learn over a week's time to be caught up onto speed to support the next executive team. Saves you so much time, worth a lot of value. Same product. One more iteration of that process, right? Okay. Imagine you're in healthcare, and in the time of someone's life, they go through various doctors, right? I mean, this may be a little more complicated with HIPAA and everything else, but just stay with me for a second. there's still a need for that consistent communication, right? You run it through it. Now you have actual concrete voice dialogues of what people are saying to ensure they're getting the best care. It's
It's
not,
it's
you know,
it's
go on.
Captain Kirk's captain's log. It's
Exactly.
it's Captain Kirk's captain's log, and it's exactly. I'm sitting here telling my wife these stories that I want to tell my daughter about my grandfather. My grandfather passed away when I was 4, but I still have all these stories, and I can see them vividly in my mind, right? But I know that I don't actually remember them. It's a combination of my brain creating them and the home movies we saw and the stories that people have told me of what happened, right? Like, I don't actually remember us on the beach when I was 2, uh, in Myrtle Beach, right? But I can vividly remember seeing me running out into the water and the waves pulling my shorts down and me yelling, "Oh my goodness," and lost my bathing suit because my family told me that story and my brain's powerful enough to create it. What would be better is if I had my grandfather who died of cancer at 50 telling me that story over voice, because that was the most important, or that was the funniest thing that happened that week. And I don't think people have the time to sit down and write. Medical professionals, they take those voice notes that they take and they sit down and they write their soap notes, um, you know, at the end of their shift, for all the patients, right? But imagine it was just automatically transcribed so that it was just there, auto. Like, I just feel like voice is so much more powerful, and we've gone from, like, we can already see that, like, TikTok, the short form video and pictures and things like
Dude,
that are so
look
much
at
more powerful.
Audible. Look at
Yeah.
Audible. If Troy releases a new book, Troy, if you wrote a blog instead of did a podcast, would anyone have still listened?
Can you repeat the question?
If you had, instead of doing your podcast, which is now really popular, had done a blog where you only express yourself in text rather than voice, do you think it would have been as popular?
Heck no, not even close.
Why
Well, and
is that?
I think that we went blog because that's what the technology allowed for when it first came out, right?
It's
And then we
also
went,
SEO, right?
yeah,
You
I,
want to be seen, there's
yeah.
that whole push,
and
backlinks.
and I think that that's what killed vlogging, right? That fact, and then all of a sudden YouTube came up, and now there's a huge thing. Like, everyone has a vlog on YouTube now, and it's popular, right? Guys just sitting in front of their camera talking. It's just a vlog, right? Like, we just don't use the term because it's just looked at as like this weird old way of thinking about it. Um, so I think video and voice versus people just sitting down and typing out their answer, you get so much more out of it. And that's why
I,
I was like, we could do this.
I would add to the point. I don't think it's, video versus text versus audio. I think that's the wrong synopsis, or that's the easy way out. But I think it's more so the consumption has changed and has evolved. People like more options, they're busier. And this whole thing about people saying they have low attention span, I don't think that's it. I think if you're interesting, it doesn't matter. They will consume. If you're not interesting, we will not consume. But there's more players or more platforms or more options. I think, with that being said, I think audio only allows you to consume without having to be tied down to be seen, whether that's reading or watching. You can just do other things.
Audio is
Audio,
non-invasive.
correct. It's also the most intimate. It takes a minute. If you're going to really commit to have somebody's voice in your ear, that's very intimate. And that requires, just by just doing that by choice, a certain factor of trust. And I think that dynamic, you can connect to a lot other additional elements through audio. And video does the same thing, but the difference is that everything is becoming video. We can be desensitized to it. And if we have all our Zoom calls, everything else all day, looking at the screen all day, we're kind of desensitized and tired. But audio is more of a intimate and more of a refreshing thing. But that doesn't mean that you still can't have that same elements on video or text. I just think audio fits the lifestyle of many who are always at a faster pace than previous generations.
All right, so you guys will talk together. But the reason I think you guys would be a powerhouse is because of how you guys complement each other. So Troy, you help people make sure they have cash flow and sales, and Zach makes sure that the individual people on the team are appropriately disciplined and motivated from a military perspective.
That is a dangerous combination. Yeah. Troy, just my background. I started Win the War. The U.S. Army changed the regulation to allow moonlighting and side hustles, which is why you've seen this like increase in like military personal trainers and coaches. And so what I'm trying to do is create the real-time business consulting, because most really large companies have a military consultant to talk about strategy and decision making and discipline and accountability within the team. But most of your small businesses and startups can't afford the six figures or, you know, $10,000 to $15,000 for a weekend seminar that it costs for that. So by leveraging the top, top 10% of current active duty, as a side hustle, we can develop the same effects for all small businesses, startup founders, where they can get not only personal training, mindset, grit, resiliency, accountability, discipline, planning, and decision making work that all these big companies leverage by hiring captains, majors, lieutenant colonels, and generals to their board and other high end positions.
Sounds sorry. That sounds amazing. I think I keep telling Mike, I'll just be like, no, I'll just be lurking. I'll just be lurking. And every so often, here we go. Plug and play, let's go. But I really think that's by synergy and serendipity. And that I find both of those words run really parallel with Mike, which is really crazy. Since most of the time I've never met him either, but I feel like I've known him for a very, 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 very long time. Though I feel like the pandemic just aged everything. Like if you knew someone in the beginning of the pandemic till now, it's like, nah, bro, we've been friends 10 years already, man. We've seen some things.
It was like it's like the trench, this experience. No, it's not. Probably not. I get that.
I jumped into one space that Mike was hosting, and I don't even know how I ended up finding it, but I jumped in, and immediately, as soon as I jumped in, like 5 minutes into it, I just messaged him. I was like, "I see what you're doing here. This is what you're doing." He's like, "Yeah. Oh, wow. You caught on really quick." And I was like, "Yeah. You know, the sales pitch that the guy tried on me worked, but he didn't do this, this, and this." And he was like, "Oh, yeah. Wow." And then ever since that, we've just been talking about things we can work on, because it's like you just see it, right? Like when you meet people that can see these things, you go, "Oh, you have that vision like I do. Let's work," especially because we have complementary skills.
The other thing too, I will say this, is once I started learning Python through the Google Colab notebook with Ahmed's help and Manish's help and Web3's help, especially, like it allowed me to prototype with like Twilio, for example. And being able to prototype with Twilio, it was like, all right, Zach, remember that thing you wanted to do? I know how to do it. And so Zach was like, okay, so we need to record the first phone call. I'm like, okay, let's go in a Twitter space. And now we're here. We have it recorded.
Ahmed messaged me and he wants to get in on a meeting, and I was just like, okay. It was kind of out of the blue, so I gotta.
Yeah, I talked to him the other day, and I said he should talk to you.
For what? Can you give me the bluff?
Yeah, so bottom line up front, are you familiar with the software, first of all?
I'm not familiar with.
Wait,
fine. Are you talking with his his actual like
with his company,
company.
Safe.ai.
Yeah.
So
We
okay.
were for a minute there. We were working on how could we get a sales force out of military spouses because they have trouble finding work. So we could get a call force from
Well,
them.
I mean, step one would be talk to Troy,
Yeah.
right? And then step two is if Troy would find my services useful, then I would pick up his call, right?
Yeah.
But I never see Troy because he's like on stage with fucking Obama. You know what I mean? He has enough time for us no more.
Man, stop spreading that word to everybody. Homie, I can take some clients if they willing to pay. Don't burn my bridges because I got a snapshot with Obama for 2 seconds. Obama about Troy no.
So you've been on the conference circuit for a while, eh?
It's
I was
slowing
thinking,
down a little bit, but
is
yeah,
this phone now?
just because I'm choosing to by default. Like now, I'm
Oh,
like at
right.
that point where pay me
Oh, yeah.
or I'm not doing
Why would I go to another
it.
conference when I've already been on stage with Obama?
Oh my god, it's gonna get old real quick. Like that's gonna be a core memory moment, but like in 6 months, no one cares. I have to stay relevant, so it's part of the game.
So do you now have to have an opinion on Kanye West? Is that how you say relevant?
Man, don't get me started, man. I have
Sorry.
been treading the line. I have kept my mouth shut because you know what? Unlike
Because you know
Kanye,
it's your
I,
responsibility as a black leader to have an
I
opinion on
can't
Kanye West.
afford to lose my checks over ignorance, over tweets, and over someone else's opinion. So I'm gonna keep my mouth shut and keep getting my paper because I got a family to take care of. Ain't no one messing up my checks, Kanye. You blew up $2 billion. That's on you, homie, not me.
It's funny. I saw a video of Jay-Z riding around with Leor Cohen when they were selling, I think, one of his albums. And they were like, how do we get this into Target? And Jay-Z was like, yeah, Leor Cohen is the guy that's opening up all these doors for me. So what are you going to do? At the very least, Kanye West got an education of the people that he supposedly hates, right? He wouldn't have learned the game unless he went through that gauntlet.
All I'm going to say on all the topics, Kanye, Kyrie, apparently, if you're a leading black person that starts with the letter K, unlike the Kardashians, there might be
Look,
some
one more K and
discrepancy.
we have a problem,
Oh
you know?
God. I'm sure we can find one if we dig the deep murk for a sec. I just feel
Is Cardi B spelled with a K?
oh God, no. And
Anyways,
Black Kodak Black. But
Kodak Black.
I'm not going
Get
there.
him,
I'm not
Black.
going there.
Get
I'm
him,
not
Black.
falling into
Can
the
you
trap.
imagine
I'm
he was
not
a
falling into the trap.
politician? Can
What'd
you
you say?
imagine Can you imagine Kodak Black came out as a politician and he came out with his DJ? Get him, Black. Get him, Black. Fuck him up.
I wouldn't even be surprised if The Rock, Drake, Kanye, all of them just want to be like, you know what? We're just going to do the greatest political album promotion ever and just start running for office. That's the way to get real money around here. And then just back out the last moment, and everyone's like, "Oh, we thought you were serious." Like, no, we wasn't really gonna do it. We just wanted to promote our new album coming out right
Oh,
now.
so there's cryptocurrency rugs, and then there's political rugs.
Oh yeah, that are non-political but very political. It's like, oh, interesting. Can you imagine they're raising money and then they spent the money on creating a new album and then just not do the just okay, I'm not going there. My point is saying all this, I
sorry,
just want
sorry.
things to be fair and just. There are people who are non BIPOC who have said some pretty awful things, and they're not in the media every day. I think half the time people forgotten after 24 to 72 hours, they still getting their money. They ain't lose no deals. But people of color, ooh, they messed up. Let's run it through the ringer on them. Give them actual steps they got to take and take all their money. Now, I'm not saying Kyrie and Kanye have been doing stuff for a minute. And it's always when you disrupt the market and play with different things. After a while, people don't like that. You play with fire, you're going to get burned. I understand that. Don't piss people off. Don't hurt people's feelings. Do not talk about people's gender, ethnicity, race. Let's be inclusive. Let's have empathy. 100%. I agree with that. But just make the rules the same. Because we can go on a deeper list of folk who legitimately, wrong is wrong, but I think we all can safely agree there's bigger wrongs, have done worse things, and they still doing their thing. They got a pat on the wrist, and ain't no one talk about them no more. That's my only concern with that. But I'm gonna leave it at that because then honestly, I that shows me that no matter how like what we just said. Oh, Troy, you got to speak on the same stage as Obama. You've worked really hard this year. You've been putting a lot of work, and it shows me that no matter how much I may actually do from a successful standpoint to benefit the world, if I put on a hoodie right now, walk out this with y'all still in my ear, I still can be seen as a threat. It's not like an avatar pops up. Oh wait, he a good one. He a good one. So that's just where my reality is like distorted and constantly reminded. There are still different levels to this thing, even if you get to the level of maybe Kanye West or Kyrie Irving.
All right, let's hear from a cis white gender male. Zach, what do you have to say?
No, I think that coming from my perspective, I hear individuals go, I know how you feel, or I know exactly what you mean. And this is the exact example that I usually use is like, I will never know what it feels like ever. Right. My empathy can only take me so far to feel like what it feels like as an African American male to see what's happening to Kanye and go, no matter how rich I get, no matter how far I move up in the public eye, no matter how much support I feel I have, I can be taken down in a moment's notice. And as a white guy, white cisgender male, like you said, like I have to understand that I will never ever know what that feels like. And so the whole idea of systemic racism isn't that we're all sitting here inherently racist all the time. It's that there are small things that we will never know and we will never be able to address because we will never understand, and our empathy will only ever be able to take us so far in understanding. And I think that's the most important thing for people to realize is it's not about you are a terrible human being because you're a white male. It's that you will never understand the plight and what's happened and how policy over decades have created this system because we can't know. Like we can only sit here and go, okay, please educate, please help me empathize a little bit more. And every time we have these conversations we can go, oh, okay, it's not about sitting here going, oh, that's not true. Like it's just about, everyone's experiences are different and you'll never be able to fully understand them because your experience isn't the same. That's why every time someone goes, oh, I know how you feel, I go, no, you don't. You know from your own lenses. And so I appreciate you opening up, Troy. And that's just my, if anyone ever listens to this recorded space and you're a cis white guy, this isn't an attack on white guys. This is an opportunity for you to expand your empathy just a tiny bit more. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, technically, I'm a cis white gender voice.
Dude. Bro, if you don't go on tour in these spaces and get this money in the comedy space, I'm just gonna be disappointed.
I'm trying to bring it over here.
Shoot.
It's, so like, but seriously, like you, Zach. So, Zach, can you tell Troy more about what you do with individuals? Because I really think with the pace that Troy moves, the only thing that's ever lacking is the discipline to follow through. And discipline is yet theoretical.
Yeah, so because we're leveraging current active duty guys, let's say you had a client, you come up with a plan of how they can execute. Instead of you doing, you can do a monthly check-in, but then my organization for $200 a month can leverage a current active duty drill sergeant or, sergeant first class or staff sergeant and say, they will call them every morning and go, get the fuck up and go to the gym, or get the fuck up and start working, or what is it you need to accomplish today? And so just having that person where we come at it from a things are life or death perspective. And what's kind of interesting is what we find is when we are telling you it's not that serious, it makes things feel less serious. And when we say it is serious, they go, oh shit, this is life or death. So we're able to put it in different perspectives. Because like, we're not trying to create an industry where people are making, a full-time salary doing it. What we're just trying to do is, some of the best leaders in the military are getting out early because they feel like their talents are being wasted and they can make more on the outside. And if I can supplement their current income with some part-time income outside of their work, then they'll stay in and they'll have the positive impact we need to make the force more inclusive, more lethal, and better for everyone. And so that's kind of my goal, is leveraging the talent that's here to keep the talent in, so that we can have that positive impact, and finding programs and individuals that need a little, because there's so many people going, oh, you should just have self-discipline. I'm like, it doesn't work that way for like the majority of people. Like, sure, if you wake up one day and you're like, I want to be a Navy SEAL, like, you should probably just have inherent self-discipline. But there's a lot of people who never had the family, never had the support network to teach that level of discipline or accountability. And so they sit there and they scroll on their phones, or they spend way too much time on Twitter Spaces, or they're sitting there watching TV. And you're like, bro, you haven't even like done work today. Like, come on, like, let's get some stuff. Like, I was up at 4 this morning. Like, I did 2 workouts, and I'm single dad for the week and running this company. Oh, and I'm full-time active duty, and I'm trying to write my first book. Like, come on, like, if you're not outpacing me, like, let's go. So that's kind of what we do. On the individual level, is just, there's a lot of apps that try to replicate the idea of meat bodies interacting with meat bodies, because it's too hard to scale it. And so I think now that they changed the regulation, there's an entire group of talent who are really good at just keeping people on task and accountable and moving forward, that are available now. And so that's what we're trying to leverage.
I love that. I remember, obviously the boom of coaching and so many other variations between that, and the parallels between therapy and accountability partners, and however you want to slice it. I find that a lot of people need that push for discipline, but they will never achieve the success that discipline comes with it until they hit a certain catalyst that wakes them up. Whether it's, yo, if you don't work out, you're gonna get diabetes. Oh, yo, you just got a kid on the way, you got to make more money. Or they need a catalyst to spark that. But then, still, as your point, you still need someone to put gasoline on your match to really burn that fire, right? But I also find that a lot of coaches, not projecting on you because you're not. That's not. I'm just talking in the industries and stuff like that. A lot of coaches that I found, or people just trying to help people be better, and challenge why they're not being disciplined, why they can't. They only see it from a certain vantage point of, this person needs to do more, and I used to be that person. In my mind, I'm a high performer, so it's just like, I just got to do more. I either got to get up earlier, I got to stay up later, I got to rearrange my schedule. I can make this work. There is nothing I can't do. I just got to do. And the actuality was, your socioeconomic status, your ability to access to support, your ability to pay for services like yours, Zach, and other people, can put a constraint on you actually even wanting to change, because you can't get out of the debt, you can't get out of your situation. Or, and I can say this, I'm black. A lot of black people tend to question, why are you going to therapy? You don't need that. You don't need these things, because it seems like, what's wrong with you? Versus taking, wow, congratulations on being more proactive of developing healthier skill sets, improving your mental health, um, dealing with your anger, dealing with your trauma, educating yourself, and not being seen as you're trying to be white. But when we make it, oh, yeah, great, you're Obama, awesome. It's like the conflicts of people of color trying to self improve on themselves within the confines of their socioeconomic status, ecosystem, and because we're so rooted in the community, the opinions of others that may not be informed and or maybe ignorant of better, healthier solutions, and people aren't willing to educate them on it, it creates a cycle that no wonder no one can get better. No wonder we can't break these ceilings. We don't have a chance. We don't even have the money or the tools or the people, or people see us as a lost cause because our generations are like, well, that person didn't try. I didn't think it was even possible. How can a blind person make a decision on that thing if they can't see it? And I think this is what people need to understand is like there's a lot of marginalized communities and small businesses. They just need to see what's possible in their lens, not from just some, ideological mid 30s cis white male who was born into money or was an immigrant, came over, was able to get a loan, and that catapulted them to do what they need to do, like every other story it feels like in there. I just saw the WeWork documentary on Hulu, and so I'm triggered. But I digress. But I just feel like if people would understand, like we're having conversations like this, where people who maybe didn't have access, this is what amazing Twitter Spaces and the Syndicate allows us to do, is to connect with folks from all over the world who wouldn't have the ability to hear those two combinations working together in harmony and think for a moment, oh, I could do that. Oh, this person can support me. I didn't even know that was even a possible life choice. I didn't know I could deal with my anger. I didn't know they didn't know. And I think that's the problem. We don't communicate enough. And if we do communicate, it's filtered, it's tailored, it's not raw, it's not real.
One of our first clients, he was in a Twitter space with me, and we were having a conversation, and a couple of people jumped in and were like, well, you've just had more access than the people of color as a startup founder. That's why you think this way. And then he goes, well, I'm black and I'm from the ghetto. Like I had to work really hard to go to Yale. And they were like, well, yeah, you're just trying to be what? And he was just like, whoa, like, why are you putting me down just because I've worked and gotten this? And I feel like he pulled me aside and he was like, I get this a lot when we come into spaces, which is why I don't, is like, I get the support, not from my community, but from other communities. And I feel like that's the hard part of it is people project onto him. And I was just like, oh man. And again, I will never understand. I can only empathize as far as my, my experience will let me. And that's one thing that I'm like, I've always been like, I come into spaces and everyone's like, oh yeah, sure. And like, I know part of it's because I'm a white 30-something guy. And like, I have a duty to be the person saying, hey, look, like we have to support everyone, like regardless. And we have to make the mindset and the coaching and those things available at a cheaper price than, $3,000 a month, $1,000 a month. Like I want to make a thing where we have a diverse group of coaches that are personal trainers and mindset coaches, like available to anyone that wants it from whatever community, right? At $100 to $200 a month with real people, not some app so that it's cheap so that everyone can afford it, but like person to person, like full conversations, because that's what it takes to find success and be better. And yeah, that's just what I'm trying to build. As soon as this play place opens and I can take my daughter in, I will be off Twitter Spaces. But Troy, it's been wonderful connecting with you. I hope that we can talk again. And if you have those notes from the meeting you had, you can send them my way because I would love to look over them because I'm going to keep trying to build this thing in the background of everything else I'm trying to build. I'd also like to give a shout out to Dre, who's down there listening and who is an awesome founder. And Dre, can you come up and just update us? Because I haven't been in a space with you in a while, and I would love to know what's going on with your kitchens and your documentary.
Greetings, all. Greetings. Yeah, Zach, that's why I wanted to jump on this. I saw you were in here, and I was like, I haven't heard from or seen Zach in forever. What's been going on? Because last night in the founders chat, I came up on stage to talk about the newest project that I'm on. Like, I need more. But you remember early on in those Twitter or those founder chats, the conversation of a CDFI. I don't know if you remember those, but how we were talking about those. Well, I've been advocating one um, for one to be, where I live. I'm from Evansville, Indiana, a very small town in the Midwest at the southern tip of the state. And I've been advocating for a CDFI for disinvested founders, and all the advocating, all the preaching. I was asked to be on an advisory board to bring the CDFI officially to Evansville. And so I'm with all the CEOs of all the companies, a whole bunch of white men. And my job as this 30-year-old to tell these 55-year-old and older men to say, hey, the history behind the CDFI was to help disinvested groups. That's the point. And so I have to keep reminding them of that. And one of the pushbacks were, are there attractive projects for CDFI? And I keep reminding them, hey, these disinvested founders that have these crazy ideas, those are the projects. So that is the latest project that I am on. I'm excited to do it because I get to, like, in a respectful way, of course. I'm not being disrespectful, but I get to keep these men with their net worth in line. Like, and it's interesting that now they're calling upon me to say, is this the direction, the audience, and all these things? And I get to remind them, disinvested founders, those who have the crazy ideas, and those are who we need to be supporting. Yesterday, I spoke at one of the universities here, and I took a quick poll of the room, and I say, a show of hands. You can answer this question if you want. You don't have to, but just out of curiosity, who has good credit score, collateral credit, assets, equity, all those things where you can take out a traditional bank loan for your startup? And like, no one raised their hand. And either it's because they didn't want to or they don't have it. And those are disinvested founders in the room that I'm like thinking to myself, this is who the CDFI is supposed to be helping, these 13 founders. And some might not make it, but the help is there. So that is my latest project that I'm working on. And then, of course, Bedford Collab is going to be a shared use commercial kitchen for inspiring foodpreneurs who need that space to run their business out of effectively. Whether in a foodpreneur is defined as a food truck owner, caterer, baker, inspiring chef, all the above. So those are the two projects that I'm working on. I'm very proud of. And Zach, I miss you in the founders chat. If you got time, slide on in there once or twice because they're pretty interesting. But
I'm gonna start hosting Mission Mondays chat, and then I'm gonna try and start hosting that Thursday founders chat, because I don't know if you've seen the same thing. Like, when we first were in all those rooms, it was like every single day there was like one or two startup chats, founders chats, like things for like support for founders. And it was like some of them only had like two or three people, some of them had hundreds of people. And like I was like
yeah,
really loving
totally.
it. But they're like gone now. The only one is Sarah's, and then that's really it. Like Zeka's not running his,
No,
and
Zeka still runs his.
well, I'm saying that he's running his, but he's running it through just, I think, his community space. And
Oh,
it's,
okay.
remember, he was hosting his green space almost every week.
Yeah, okay. I know what you're saying. Yeah. I get
You
what you're
know,
saying. Yeah, I
so
get what you're saying.
it seems like that when the market went, I think people shifted to building, and now the support isn't there. And I'm starting to see a lot more posts from founder friends being like, my mental health is starting to go down and like I'm starting to struggle, where I didn't see those posts so much back then. And I don't know if it's a combination of the markets plus there's less support in founder Twitter.
Yeah, because it's about VC and about raising funds. That's why you
Yeah.
should bring the chat back.
Yeah, I got to start doing that. All right. I'm going to do it. You going to help me on Thursdays? We'll do it on Thursdays. We'll just do founder chats, no VCs coming up. We're just going to do founder problems and founders helping founders. So we'll just try to fix that on Thursdays.
I'm totally with you.
All right. Okay.
Dre, KC, have you heard of the CDFI?
No, I'm just trying to
Oh,
absorb
let
right
me
now and
back
figure it
up.
all
I'm
out. Yeah.
sorry.
KC, Dre, KC does finance stuff. Dre is just an awesome founder, and I have to run because they just opened up. So I'm just gonna keep connecting dots. Troy, it was great connecting. Dre, this is the Syndicate, so you can always come here and bring ideas and bring chat topics. And Mike, I will talk to you later, and then we'll get my dad and my mom's phone number to you so we can try to test this.
Yes, we'll kick that off with Twilio.
Perfect. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
See ya.
Oh, hey,
Dre, you said
Sandra,
you're from
Kit.
Indiana, right?
Yeah, I'm from Indiana.
Where specifically again?
Evansville, Indiana. It's at the southern tip of the state.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got family in that, and most of my family's from Northwest Indiana, so
Oh,
very
okay,
familiar
yeah.
with the area.
Oh, yeah. I go to Indianapolis at least like 4 times a year for like a conference that catches my eye. There's a lot of good work happening in Indianapolis, and I feel like that city kind of shits on Evansville because it's like southern and it's smaller, and we're
It
not
is terrible.
Yeah, and so it's like I kind of go and represent for Evansville because we need it.
100%.
Yeah, but real quick, someone said, okay, so CDFI, so it stands for Community Development Financial Institution. And basically, the traditional banks will just give money to CDFIs. CDFIs loan the money out, and then the traditional bank system gets the loan credit. And the reason why CDFIs exist is because we know the traditional banking system is governed by the FDIC. So they can't do, the traditional banking system can't do the deals that are necessary, such as helping disinvested founders or maybe loaning to a restaurant. The CDFIs are in place to do those outlandish deals that you're like, okay, this founder has this crazy idea. So, for example, the Bedford Collab project, the shared kitchen I just talked about, my business partner and I that we're building together, we don't have assets, collateral, credit, equity to take out an $800,000 loan to build this thing. So we are working with a nonprofit and a CDFI to be able to make this happen. And so that's the importance of CDFIs. And so we will raise $600,000 to receive the Secretary of State designation. That's what you need in order to do that. So it's a big deal to get that designation. But once you have it, there's some more logistics things that are put in place. But that's like the first step, is getting that designation from the Secretary of Treasury designation. So that's like the first step. So we'll get that, put more logistics in place, and be able to help disinvested founders. And like I said before, it's really cool that I get to remind all these CEOs of banks and corporations, like, no, this is the direction. This is what we're doing. And they're like, legit, like, I'm being heard, I'm being seen because I'm the one with the experience. That's why I was invited. So it's kind of good to, I wouldn't say keep them not in check, but like keep them in line. It's been pretty good. And sometimes I got to raise my voice a little bit because they think that because, they're 50 plus, I'm 30. I know what I'm talking about. But it's like, hey, I've actually built companies. I'm building one now. I'm like a living example, living proof in front of you. I think what I should do is have some more founders come speak. I think that's what my heart's been saying, like have more founders come in and just like pitch, and not to get anything out of it, but to show all those CEOs, like, here's our customers. Here's our customers. So that's the CDFI and all the work attached to it.
So, Dre, I'm curious. is part of the component on where the money is allocated dictated by low, moderate income tracks? Is there a
Yes.
component there, right? So
Yes.
they want to see the money going to low, moderate income areas.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So that is part of the banking system's CRA initiative.
Right. And that's where the funds will come from to help the CDFI from bank CRA funds. Now, what I'm learning on this journey is most banks don't even have a CRA office or director or arm or whatever you want to call it. And so now those banks are saying, well, is the CDFI a competitor? And so now we're raising awareness that it's not, and we're forcing those banks that don't have a CRA representation to create one if you want to be a part of the success and ultimately get that loan credit that banks love so much.
Like when you go back to, you have to backtrack to the reviewer of the annual test for the banks would be an amazing link, because all the banks have to pass that annual CRA test across their spectrum of products. So, yeah, that's wildly interesting.
Thank you. And you can always just simply Google, CDFI and then where you live and see what pops up. Ohio has a great CDFI network. Indianapolis it's decent. It's decent, but there's CDFIs down south and throughout the East Coast that are amazing. So you can just Google it and see if there's one nearby that you could learn from.
So what does the next Champagne? I did a portmanteau. What is the Champagne moment for you next with the CDFI project?
That moment will be once we get that Secretary of Treasury designation. That's going to be big.
What will that signify?
That we are recognized as a CDFI here in Evansville, Indiana.
And once you have that designation, what does that allow the stakeholders to do? With what benefits?
So that will allow us to then go to banks and say, okay, we have this designation. We are able to give out these smaller loans to begin with, because there's a process. We just can't start giving out massive loans. So it allows us to be recognized, have that designation, and we can start helping immediately. So that's what I'm excited for, because there's a lot of founder projects coming up that need some type of funding, and we can start with some examples. Start by helping some.
So quick question, Casey, I know you have your hand up, but let's say you had that piece of paper signed today. What would the next 15 days look like once you have that signed piece of paper in your hand with the seal of approval?
The next 15 days, identifying I find another institution that could help with programming, because that's one arm of a CDFI. You have to have programming in place. But we have
what
the
does
small
programming
business.
mean?
Programming means like some type of accelerator program for founders. But we have one in Evansville already. We just need to link the CDFI with that program, because what happens is founders come out of that program with nothing next to look forward to. So now that there's this funding option in place, that's what they can look forward to. They've gone through the accelerator. They've pitched a bunch of times, but got nothing for pitching like we see in other cities. We don't really take pitch competition seriously here. So that could be a start to help them get some type of funding. But the next 15 days would be crucial.
Is it possible for you to win those stakeholders' interests without necessarily signing a piece of paper before that champagne moment comes when you have that designation? Can you start building relationships now?
100%, 100%. And that's what I'm thinking about, having founders that I've engaged with come to these meetings and say, this is why we need the CDFI, and start building relationships. Absolutely.
The reason I'm asking all these questions is because I know Casey has a lot of experience as a loan officer, decades of experience, right? Working with this similar target market. And so when you said programming, I was like, oh, I wonder if we could create the program. I create a lot of content and we do a lot of instructional design. And so what the Syndicate is basically is a resource pool for people to get shit done in hours instead of months.
I love that.
So there's developers in the background, there's strategy people in the background. Zach whips people into shape and yells at them when required. KC is like the financial consigliere, because if they don't have their finances in shape, KC can't get them a house. So KC has a whole financial education service being rolled out right now, application being rolled out right now to help people buy homes and get in a better position. And I thought that the same requirements to be a healthy homeowner are probably the same requirements to be a healthy founder.
So
No, absolutely. Go ahead, Casey.
I'm sorry, Dre. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to agree that it is, and I do want to learn more about what you are. This is the first time I've heard of this. See, that's why Zach needs to come to these chats so I can know. I mean, this is brilliant. This is definitely needed.
So, because I have a bunch of questions, but I'll first ask, like, you guys aren't developing like community seconds for, say, like, I'm a business owner and I want to buy a shop so I can get my whatever XYZ shop going, but I need help with my down payment. They go to use CDFI for a community second to support their down payment closing cost. You guys doing anything like that, or is that not so much at this point?
Well, that definitely, the CDFI definitely can do that. The CDFI is not governed by the FDIC, so the CDFI can step into a lot of the gaps. So absolutely, if a founder was to come to us with that issue, yeah, we definitely want to help with that.
So, like, as kind of a copy and paste resource for you, you can look at community seconds, are what they're called, as it applies to real estate, and you can copy and paste that into commercial application. The commercial lending is in a lot of ways similar for collateral and credit and history and cash flow in terms of qualifying to get it, but there's a lack of community funding for new business owners, especially in the low and mod tract areas.
I'll give you an example. One of the founders I'm working with right now for the electronic security company is a Ghanaian guy living in Toronto. And he told me the first hurdle that he had to overcome as a business owner was getting credit. Because if he didn't get access to credit, he couldn't work on an install. And the equipment for the install might be anywhere from 40 to 100 grand. But if you can't afford the equipment to do the project, well, you can't win the project. Right? And finally, he was able to find one vendor who was able and willing and trusted him enough to extend him credit. And without that person looking kindly on him, he may not have a business today.
Yeah. See, that's what we need more of in this world, especially helping out those founders. I love to hear that. I followed you too, so we definitely need to stay. I definitely want to stay on your radar for sure.
Casey, do you mind shilling Dre on your financial app?
Sure. Yeah.
Are you ready for the show, Dre?
I'm ready for the show.
Okay, here it comes.
Can you do the voice though? Sorry.
Are you tired of big promises with no delivery? Does the thought of getting pitched on the next high yield project make you want to vomit? All right, so there's a lot of marketing out there right now for financial literacy, financial education, but the majority of it doesn't actually have any. It's just there to show you how to buy XYZ product. And after 20 years of sales, it makes me sick to listen to not just a sales pitch on something important, but a really shitty sales pitch. So I've gone back to the fundamentals. I'm using the four corners of financial literacy, and developing an app based on those four corners alone. No advertising, no products to buy, free use. And it's a mirror protocol. So it's there to show you what you look like on paper. And that's the purpose of the app. There are budgeting apps out there like Mint and Pure One and Citizen One, and there's a bunch of apps out there, but they're jam-packed full of advertisements, and the way they display the information is god awful. It's just brain numbing to open up the app and look at your own budget. So what we're doing is we're using visual representation of your financial position. So you'll have access to see all the standard columns and formats and percentages and charts that you would normally have access to, but the main interaction or user interface will be more artistic and more representative through visual aid of, say, you have poor credit, then your character may look sunken and ill. If you have a lot of reserves, your character may look very beefy and muscular. So we're giving a different representation to how your financial health or illness is vis-a-vis character representation. And then eventually that leads off into other things like 3D modeling, Web3 interfaces, and a whole world of opportunities, but we're just building the initial tool at this time. How's that? It's a lot, right? It's a big.
That was a lot. I was processing, but no, I get it, and I definitely support that. No, I understand. I had to process it. Also,
it's a lot to spit out.
Voice. Thank you for the voiceover at the beginning.
I wanted the whole thing in the voiceover.
Yeah, it was good, and I get it. You know, it was a lot. I've been doing the same thing. It's with these projects. It's a lot. You gotta. It's like, how do you say the right thing? You just have to just tell the story. You have to just say it, and whether people can process it quickly or understand or ask questions, you just have to sometimes. It's all good. It's all good.
I found that I just kind of have to go for it. Sometimes I get a very succinct, short phrase catch, and it works out well as a very brief, like, here's the thing. Sometimes kind of got to ramble. There's a lot going on. It's hard to frame it all in a short phrase.
No, you're absolutely right. Because I was going to say with Bedford Collab, that shared kitchen, I mean, it's a small business incubator for food businesses. So there's going to be so much going on. So like, I have a hard time capturing it all because it's so much. There's a founder that we may work with that wants to take food waste and convert it into nanotubes and renewable energy. And he will be working with us. So it's like, there's just so much happening. So I get where you're coming from.
I guess I figure the same personal financial resilience that an investor will expect from a startup is probably the same financial resilience picture ratios that a bank expects when processing a mortgage application.
You mean it would bother you if this person is on their last dollar and they don't have any income and their credit shot? You would be nervous.
It may influence the way they use capital. Right?
And if someone comes to you with a 810 FICO and a long history of always making their payments and they've got a year in reserve for all expenses.
I'll give you the break in the matrix. I remember talking to a lawyer in Toronto, and she's a partner now. And she said, this is years ago. She says, my firm is telling me to be innovative, but we charge $30,000 for you to become a client. And the people who can afford us often aren't really all that innovative.
Disinvested founders who couldn't afford that are the ones who are innovative. I'm just biased.
Exactly.
I'm just biased.
Yeah, no, I see that. I see that. Sandra.
This is a useless rant, but I'll be half a minute at most.
No, this is the disaster of a podcast.
Oh,
so
good.
please,
I'm
free reign.
Cool. Whenever I I was, as you guys know, I was with this person for like 29 years. And over time, I watched my credit get destroyed by somebody. And when I tried to kind of like very gently address it, I would get put off. And if I got too uppity about it, I'd get hit. Um, and anything at the businesses that we had, all the money ran through him, like his account. So everything basically looks like a gift to me. Um, so my credit got wrecked because of a lot of his spending habits. His, on the other hand, his credit is perfect because, well, anyway, long story short, I'm now by myself. My credit is, effed, but not as bad as some people, but bad enough so that like if I get a credit card offer, it's insane. Like it's like, really? Here's your 26% interest rate card for, no money at all. Anyway, so my rant is that it seems like women in particular who are just let themselves get taken advantage of by I guess their life situation. One could argue it's my fault, and ultimately it is. But I'm kind of in a situation where, I'm not a candidate as a founder for shit because my credit is not good. I don't have an extensive background except my law office, which I basically ran for free because I was doing DB work. So it's kind of a weird situation where I would like to do things with what I have and just cybersecurity awareness for particularly for women who are just overwhelmed by everything, and just it's kind of hard to digest some of the particulars of what not to do when you're just completely like, well, what does it matter because I'm just fucked anyway. uh, So for me to get credit to build like the stuff that I'm working on, it's impossible because I because of my credit, I don't have access to traditional channels. And so everything's geared, even the lower income stuff is geared towards people who bottom line have a good FICO score. So it's frustrating. It's just frustrating to see. And sometimes I feel like a panhandler, like, but I'm too shy to be a good panhandler. So uh, it's just such a strange situation. I never imagined I'd be in. And it's just I just wonder if there's ever going to be a way that, underrepresented people that want to be a founder can access either traditional or less traditional channels when their credit is just, a mess. But maybe they just need that extra help. They just need a little more extra guidance. And maybe that would be something that would be helpful. But I'm just, as I've said to you before, Mike, and everybody else, it just aggravates me. I just wish something was a little different than reality.
I want to real quick just say I'm a big fan of saying that the credit system and the lending system as it is far from fair and very far from perfect, which is why I try hard to take the tact of just describing what is to hopefully give people a direction to go in.
Oh, and I'm sorry. I'm not attacking you
No,
personally
no,
in
I
any
didn't take it
way.
as
And
such. I didn't take it as
yeah,
such. No
good.
worries. I just, what you're saying is something that strikes deep to my professional world when we're working with the financial literacy homeless counselors. And that, that theme is prevalent.
And like, here's the thing, right? If I went back to my ex tomorrow, and he would gladly take me back because his life without me is a train wreck for a variety of reasons. That's not me being bragging. I just know it is. It just is. But if I went back to him tomorrow, he would put his credit behind like my project ideas and my app, and I would 100% easily get the credit and everything that I would need to start up my ideas. And they would take off, and guess what would happen? He'd get all the money and all the credit and everything else for it, and I'd be totally dependent on him again. So I'm in a situation where if I go back to him, I can have a successful project, most likely. I would do all the work, he'd get all the fucking money. Or I stay out here on my own. Uh, I'm already in a dire situation by my own making because I'm an idiot. And I don't have the credit to start up what I need, what I would like to start up. And, but if I went back to where I left, I would have no problem at all. It's just such a effed up mess. The system,
So,
just the way it is, I guess.
would you be open to exploring your local public resources for things like credit building?
Well, I mean, we can talk privately. I went through Clarify before, like when all my credit cards got taken over. I paid them all myself.
Well,
Um,
so I wasn't thinking about like direct, but more so like there are nonprofit, they're called housing counseling agencies, but they're totally separate from me, right? I don't have anything to do with them. But most areas have those organizations, and their counselors are all geared towards helping people establish their credit and fix up their finances and get the tools they need to do that on their own.
yeah, no,
And that's,
I understand.
public access. Okay. Okay.
But a year later, that will be very helpful. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, like it's not fixing my credit's not going to happen like overnight, which means that anything that I want to do now is going to be outdated and just useless. And I went and I did a little bit of research at least, and there's no, like, for example, there's no on-demand app for teaching Bitcoin that maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. There are apps for Bitcoin, like, here's your Bitcoin learning app. But I'm talking about a system where, you have a question about it, or you want to learn a particular topic in it, and you just hit a button and beep, there's somebody there then you get to choose who you want that's available. And, you get to talk to that person right away, and they'll teach you from scratch, or they'll teach you a specific topic, and it's, you know, then you can have a more enlightened life about it. But, I would expand that into cybersecurity and topics that women are particularly interested in, and try to make it as easy to, I mean, if I can figure it out, believe me,
I like it.
yeah,
We can call it ease, education as a service.
good idea. Good idea.
What's up, Dre?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dre. I thought you had your hand up.
Yeah, I thought you did too. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to take the mic off. I was going to say, Sarah, completely agree with everything that you were saying. The financial system is definitely effed up for sure. And so what my project partner and I decided to do was, and at first I felt compromised. Like, why do we have to do this? This doesn't feel right. But looking back, I'm glad we did it. It was necessary. But we formed a 501c3 organization. And so that's how we've been able to raise over right $500,000 for this project. Because before, we were trying to go through the traditional banking system. We had to get creative. Now, I'm not one for, saying everyone, go form a 501c3 organization. Like, everyone needs to do that. But that's what we did. And that's what was able to work for us to get this project moving. Because I can write grants. I think I'm pretty decent at pitching. But VC funding never even crossed my mind, because we only have one VC funder. It's called Elevate Ventures, and they only invest in tech. So we're automatically not even asked. We're not even at the table for that. So that's just what, we did, and it's been helpful. I don't expect everyone to do that, or should, but, from our perspective, even though it's a nonprofit organization, we're running this like like a business. It's what it is. You know, when we got our articles of incorporation, it said nonprofit domestic corporation, and we're treating like a business. It has to be sustainable. So, but that's the route we took, and like I said, I don't expect everyone to do that, but I just wanted to share, like, you know, that's how we're able to raise funds, is grant writing and looking for matches. And we've been we went to some pitch competitions, and it works, but that's just the route we took for our endeavor.
Yeah, no, I know how to do a 501c. I've done them for people before in New Jersey. I just I don't know. I'll have to look into the that's probably the way for the idea that I'm thinking of doing to go. Oh, poor Case. Did I chase him off again? Poor man. Uh, actually, I do need to talk to him. So yeah, I think that's the route. I still need to educate myself a lot more on, okay, I got my 501c3. The next step is drum roll. Okay, now I got to fundraise, but what do I like? How can I do that on a shoestring budget of zero? Yeah.
I hear you. It always comes back to dollars every single time. Every single time.
I'll figure it out eventually. It's just, I just have to prioritize things.
Absolutely. No, I know you will figure it out. I mean, as disinvested founders, underrepresented, underserved, however you want to label us, we have no choice but to figure it out.
Yeah, I hope that change. I hope the FICO system gets evaluated and changed, because, as I sit here and think about it, I have to wonder what the analytics are now. If I ran the formulas of all the major people, Experian, whatever that use FICO, I bet you I would find that there's a disparate impact argument. Not that that applies to them, but there has to be something there in terms of the people that, they may need extra help in class. Like, I know for my student loan back in the day, I had to attend classes on, what to do with it. Like, you can't spend it on pizza necessarily. You have to, use it. You can't buy a car with it, that sort of thing. So I can see, I hope that someday FICO is revisited so that underrepresented people who are put in crappy situations in their life have an opportunity to either an easier fix, or just a different way of it being calculated, so that people who aren't represented very well because of the FICO score itself and how it's scored, get a better chance.
Who would be? I mean, how is that even the FICO score? I mean, who would you have to? I guess where would you even start?
I'd have to research that. I have a feeling that that's. I mean, it's private, but at the same time, I have to wonder if they do get public funding. But anyway, yeah, I don't. I'd have to research that. I don't know off the top of my head. I'll go protest in front of Warren Buffett's house. See what happens.
There you go. Okay, all right, team. I need to go do a tour of the property. Have some people coming through to see it, so I'm gonna hop off here. But I will be looking out for the next chat.
Take care.
Honor.
So it was that. I got my checks here now. Yay! So was that enough of a disaster to be declared a disaster, Mike? What do you think?
I don't know. I've seen some disasters.
Yeah. Next time I'll have to.
If it was a hurricane, it would, an earthquake, like on the Richter scale, it's probably like a
Yeah, I'm
1.4.
yeah, a tornado.
I was really hoping for a bit of more of a disaster out of you. I was kind of let down, to be honest.
I was on the verge of tears, but I managed to avert this. I'm trying. Next time.
Of all the people I thought I could have counted on for a disaster, and you let me down.
Damn it! It's been a hard day. It's the second time today I haven't fucked up. So
You have to schedule the disaster. Okay, we're gonna have the disaster from 4 to 6.
You're right. Except it wouldn't be on time, because if it was on time, it wouldn't really be a disaster, would it? Because that's
I
how the
wonder.
best disasters start.
I wonder if we can schedule disasters and.
I wish we could. Wouldn't that be nice? I like your dad's Bible study, by the way.
Oh man, it's great, right?
Yeah, was he religious? I guess he was if he was in a Bible like that.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the books on the shelf for sure.
So I had a case where I'm about to try it, and my client is sitting behind, like he's supposed to sit with me at the table, but he's sitting behind that and he's highlighting a Bible. I'm like, fuck. Like, and the person I was with,
Yeah, just make sure he's not on Revelations.
no, I've never had a client who wrote or highlighted a Bible either in my office or at court that wasn't a fucking liar. They bring it because they think it makes them look like they're honest. Like if they bring it, why, there's no reason to bring like and highlight a Bible in open court.
Right.
Everybody
It's almost like
that's,
peacocking in court.
yeah. And I was like, shit, and I ended up like getting like a impromptu case management conference to try to like stall everything, because like it was just like, I can't have that guy there like that, because any judge in New Jersey knows that if you're highlighting a Bible in court, you're a liar. It's a very cynical thing. It really is. But that's, if ask a judge, and they'll give you the politically correct answer, and then you'll say, no, really, what do you think? Yeah, he's a liar. So I settled it, because I'm like, yeah, someone has medical records of my client that are different than what I have, and I'm going to get shish kebabbed. I just know it. And it was a good thing I did, because that was kind of along the lines of what we later found out.
You might say that your experience points to the fact that people swear on the Bible.
Yeah, true.
I had to.
It's disappointing though, because
So,
I always hope for a different outcome with people, and I'm always wrong. Not always, but a lot.
it was good. We connected Troy and Zach and.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I see. I was the hurricane. I came in and I just made everything miserable.
That's good. We're
Sorry.
connected. So good things will happen. Hopefully.
Now I'm really glad I've heard that things are going really good for Zach, and I'm glad. That's a fantastic program.
Okay. Sure.
So I was going to go pitch my Bitcoin on demand program at Pacific Bitcoin, but they had like I think there's like a pre-contest you have to enter to even be able to do that. So, and I think that obviously everything else is far more advanced and up and running. I mean, I'm just going to base mine I hate when people say that. I'm going to base mine off of what I already know that already works, but from a different context. So if I can get a copy of GoGo Kids app and reverse engineer it, I mean, I have my own app, as you guys saw, but what I want is I want to be able to put slides into it. So, for example, a teacher would be like, okay, lesson 1, chapter 2, part 4. And then you bring that up, you bring your slides up, and then you're teaching from the slides, and the student can also see those slides. And then you can interact, draw on them, whatever, like, things like that. So that's, kind of amp it up. Amp it up a little bit, make it a little more like it looks done, you know what I mean? And so I think I can pull off some of that, but I'm going to probably need people who know what they're doing that can program, because everything's going to have to be recorded. You can't have classes that aren't recorded because people do crazy shit during class. So everything has to be recorded and stored somewhere. And there has to be a way of tracking who are people showing up, what's going on. That way things can be revised or changed as needed.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you could model it after the voice acting class, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 4 weeks, and these 4 weeks you're going to get this, and by the end you'll have that.
Right. Because I mean, it will. The results for me are people who understand the topic of Bitcoin that they choose to learn about. That's the success, and hopefully, and at the end of the chapter would be kind of almost like a cute little test. I mean, for ESL, what we would do is it would be a test class, and the person would have a little presentation, or they would just talk about some aspect of that chapter in English, and then we just move on to the next part if they wanted to do that. But there has to be a way to track the success of that, right? If that's what you're interested in. I don't know.
Well, it depends what success is like. Like, with the Python course that we did the introductory video on.
Yeah.
Success is not for you to become a Python developer. The success is for you to experience what it's like to be a Python developer. And hopefully, if you experience what it's like and you have fun doing things that might be interesting, maybe you never become a developer, but maybe it opens up your eyes and you start doing some searches on your own.
Definitely. And I've since I did Google that, and I found, projects that other people did, and so it's fascinating. And I'm not going to say, oh, it wasn't as hard as I thought. I don't know how people do it, but obviously they do. But it's fantastic to be able to do cool things as a result of something a person programmed by themselves. I think that's neat. And it's even crazier, the fact that someone did all the background work, and then I hit a button. Oh, look, I'm programming. I hit a button in the collab there that you made, and it's like, look at what's happening. This is nuts. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too easy to entertain. But it was cool. I really liked it. It reminded me of the first time I was in a computer class, and this is when they had the printer was like 100 feet long and all that. And I learned in BASIC to type hi or something really simple, and it sent it to the printer, and it was like, like it was so, that's what it reminded me of. Kind of took me back. So, but it's so different now compared to back then. Anyway, there you have it. Oh, hi. Oh, monsters over there. Watch out, Dan. Oh. So what have you been up to, Mike? It's been a while. How are you? How's your wife?
No, it's all good. I'm creating a website, unicornlaunching.com.
Yay. Good. That's exciting.
So I'm just about to publish it.
I'm going to later this afternoon start putting together the Bitcoin app spatial. Oh, I went and looked at Roblox, by the way. Holy moly. It's like, I'm looking at it and I'm going, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do this until I like sit down for a very long time and figure out, because I'm in the create program that they have, like, go over here and you can, and I'm expecting something like Wix.com, like a little, okay, well, I'll drop this here, do that, right? Nope. I mean, I was like, I don't know. Maybe I'll wait on this. I mean, for my purposes, spatial.io is just, in my opinion, a little more, I don't feel as intimidated by it. You know what I mean? Have you looked at Roblox yet in terms of whether you're going to build something on that?
That's kind of in Casey's wheelhouse right now.
Oh, yeah, and he said it was easy, but I mean, he does that. I mean, he knows.
Yeah, easy for Casey, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not. There's no. It wouldn't make sense for me to even attempt that right now. I finally like. I think I'm going to be able to successfully put my video into a frame on spatial. Oh my lord. So I kept trying to do it, and I couldn't get it to like go up against the frame. And obviously, I need to use the keyboard. Sometimes you're just going to have to suck it up and use a keyboard. So I'll have to do that from my laptop. But yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm not really in a position. I don't know. Can I ask your opinion about something, Mike? Do you mind? I don't mean to. Don't worry. It's not anything
Yeah,
earth
yeah.
changing. Mike's like, oh shit, what the fuck is she going to ask me? I mean, I have the bare bones of what I want to do. I consider myself a reasonably good pitch artist if I have a little bit of time to prepare. I can wing it, but it's usually a mixed bag. Based on what you know so far about it, would it be incredibly audacious of me to go after funding now without? I mean, this is assuming I'm like a 501c3 or that I've applied for it.
I'm not. See, I'm in Toronto, and it's different, right? So, virtually all of the startups that they look at here have to be generating revenue
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
somehow, right? And so, if a company isn't generating revenue, that's where usually loans come into play, right? Even startups in this environment are still doing friends and family rounds to get them to that point,
Oh yeah.
right? That's why they call it like a friends and family round.
Yeah.
You know, I think what we're able to do here is get you a bit further along that family and friends round by trying to execute prototypes that hopefully generate enough demand to turn into revenue.
Right. Right. No, that makes sense.
Right.
Now
So
clarifies where I need to be. Okay.
again, I could be wrong, but it's one of those things where, my friend said pitching is very simple. Here's what I've done. Here's what you can do. I'm leaving the room now. Right.
Right.
And I just never want to be in a position where I'm begging someone. That's just a personal hang up of mine. Right.
Yeah. No.
So I want to be able to show beyond a shadow of a doubt that if someone puts money here, they can make money here. Not to say that there aren't organizations who aren't willing to, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Right. The thing that you have that is still a competitive advantage is because of your legal background and the fact that you're a woman in the Bitcoin space at your age. Right.
Yeah.
So
That sounds awful, but it's true.
but there's a large target market who is about to see their wealth evaporate overnight.
Ugh.
Evaporate. And it's going to evaporate more for people over the age of 50 than under because they're the ones with the most fiat cash. Right?
Yeah.
And inflation is killing the bank accounts of traditionalists and boomers. It's virtually wiped out the greatest wealth transfer of all time. Right? So if it was one of their own teaching them how to do it for themselves, you know what I mean? You might be able to explain it. Like if you could understand it, I'm sure you would,
Yeah. Oh, I know. I understand your point. Yes. I'm
And
just.
by the way, all the companies with the great interfaces, they're all bankrupt. Voyager is done, Celsius is like every organization that had a great interface. You know, you'd be like, "Hey, go to Coinbase." Oh, wait a minute. Oh, go to FT. What? No, wait a minute. Oh, you go to right.
Yikes.
A lot of the great interfaces have been wiped out. A lot of the great user interfaces have been wiped out, and the user interface is the barrier that's separating boomers and traditionalists from digital assets. Again, I'm not saying that they should hold 100% of their cash into digital currency, but not financial advice. You're telling me that it's not worth a 2 to 5% allocation,
Oh, yeah. I don't
right?
agree. Right.
If you're gonna have a certain portion of your assets in a speculative position, right? Whether it's 1 to 5%, you
So
know,
are you suggesting that this should be an on-demand app with a great interface for people who want to, buy into different types of,
I
you know,
think there is an untapped um, boomer and traditionalist market. You don't have to teach a kid how to use Bitcoin. You know what I mean? They'll figure it
oh,
out,
sure, sure. No, that part I
right?
understand, but
Mhm.
but I'm trying to think of whether or not this should be like an on-demand educational app, but there's also like maybe an interface to, okay, now I know what this is and what this is and what that is. Do I go and buy it
You
now?
you can build the app by helping people, so that you know what the app should be,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Once you get close, once you have your first 5 or 10 people, that's going to tell you what it should be,
Well,
right?
that I'm okay.
Like
So
like think back to Melody. Remember when the guy was trying to teach Melody how to use the wallet? She
right,
checked out in the first 30 seconds, maybe, right?
right.
So that means, right? So it's people think it's solved. It's not. It's solved for the people they know and themselves.
So you're saying I should, and this is all theoretical or whatever, but I should use the educational component to figure out what is going to keep people on
Yes,
a interface long enough to actually do something with it.
most software as a service companies that I've seen have emerged from software agencies that developed a product around their most popular customer problem. So they'll help agencies build software, help agencies build. The agency will help companies build software, build software, build software, build software, and
So,
eventually part of that software becomes so popular that they automate it, and then a family of automations becomes a product.
okay. So is that problem still going to be existing by the time I get this off the ground? Because if it's no longer a problem, and that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like that's not helpful to anybody.
That could be true of anything you decide to enter into.
Yeah. I know I shouldn't feel this way, but now I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. Like, well, I can't do it. I can't do this. Like,
Well,
just
it's funny. Lincoln, an investor I know, and he's a CFO. He has a book called No More Excuses coming out, and the first chapter is about um, the excuse of "I'm not ready."
it's not that I'm not ready. It's just
Hmm.
I know I'm smart enough to know what I can and can't do, and there's a lot that I mean, I can put together the bare bones of the app. I can make it the way I want it. I think I'm probably wrong, but I'll figure that part out. The problem for me is I don't have enough to show to get funding, in my opinion. I could be wrong. And my family's dead, so I can't ask them for money. My sister is the only one alive. She cannot, she's barely better off with her family than I am. And her daughter has Crohn's disease and goes to CHOP every month. So I can't ask them for that. So I'm not, staying alive long enough to get to the point where I might have something that will be helpful by the time it's still relevant is doubtful. And unless I'm missing something, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm beginning to feel a little overwhelmed. I'm trying to. This isn't an excuse. It's like I'm not going to play in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like that's never going to happen. I'm 50 years old. I'm not going to be a basketball player. I'm too short. Whatever. There's a difference between excuses and reality, is what I'm saying.
The point of the chapter is to reframe the situation that you have, and to know that you're never really going to be ready. You're going to make the choice to act. And I think if you help a handful of people on board, then you'll know what the app should be. But you'll only know that after helping people viscerally in real life.
I'm speaking and I got my thing on. I think I can do that part. Like I think I can get it so that I can actually do a live chat, live lesson with people. That I think I can get to. I might have to do it like in the early VIP kid days. They would do things with whiteboards and do things live. Like they didn't have the slides in the app when they started, and by the time they got murdered by China, they were doing about 13,100 lessons every 25 minutes. Now that's English as a second language, and China is a very big country. But if I think there'll be a market there for that. But all I want to do is get people who know nothing about Bitcoin to sit with me either on their laptop or in the app, because I could just do this on a website. Like I could just do it on web and see if I can make the concept work. Does that make sense? Am I repeating it back in a clear way?
Yeah, I think we're going in the right direction, which is prove that there is value in doing this, right?
Yeah.
And for the Bitcoin investor, if you had an organization that onboarded specifically boomers and traditionalists,
Okay.
they would represent a huge amount of capital, like a massive amount of capital. Even if you just show them how to invest 0.0001% of their assets, not financially.
I see. So this should be something where it's like, okay, here's your what Bitcoin is, but don't get too deep into it. Like, I mean, I'm not criticizing that. I'm saying that I don't think it has its place. Most people are like, okay, is it going to be worth anything? And whatever, just give me the 5-minute breakdown. But I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I mean, I want to have those.
Yeah, you have those
discussions.
conversations. Yeah.
But for purposes of this, what I should do just as a proof of, an offer of proof is brief lesson, show them how to use something to buy Bitcoin with. Who's laughing at me? How dare you, sir? And and just show that it's possible. Does that seem accurate?
Can you say it one more time? Like let's say that you were going to take action to take this. I guess what you're doing is reconnaissance. If reconnaissance versus offense versus defense, this would be a reconnaissance.
I'm doing a VP Harris here. No, what I mean is, what I need to go back and do to make this.
I'm doing a VP Harris.
Yeah.
The universe is amazing.
Exactly. That's what I just did. Sorry.
A VP Harris.
You want to use disaster.
Did you just come up with that? That's a great line.
Well, I love her speeches because they're so awful. So I listen to them, and yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
did.
she's like a walking SNL sketch that you don't have to edit. You don't have to
That
punch up, you know?
that and Veep. I love Veep. I watch the series like every year, and it just cracks me up. But I do want to give a speech like that some year and just be dead serious and see if people are like, yeah, that's so she's so brilliant. My God, and then, but everybody else knows. Like I walk off and it's like she said zero, and people think she's like super smart. like, like no, she really did not say anything at all, and she knows it. All right, so originally this is a Bitcoin education app, and it will remain that, but there should be a component that's short and sweet. Teach what it is. This is how you buy it. This is where you buy it. Is that fair to say?
It could be that. The question is, what is the mechanism um, that produces revenue for you, for the organization?
Right. Because if I
Well,
can't,
but
yeah.
it could be putting ads on the website. I don't know, right?
But I
I've
mean,
had, yeah.
right. We were just talking about how I could show a boomer or a traditionalist, like, it's not good enough to just say, hey, buy Bitcoin. I have to filter them. So, like most people, they just want to be, they want their hand held the first time they do something I know at my age, I'm trying to get you to hold my hand. I don't want you to do the job for me. I I'm kind of like hand wringing because I'm too afraid. And I just need, I think I know where I'm going, and I don't expect and I'm not entitled to anyone's time. It's just that I'm having a problem I'm getting lost walking from point A. I mean, to you guys, it's obvious, right? Because you're smart and to me, it's okay. I've never been here before. Now I have to go here and do what, and that's where I'm at. So I don't mean to be disingenuous or sound lazy.
No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a perception that if someone puts words in order that makes sense, that they have the right idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Like,
of course, right.
right? Because we're speaking with our words and that's all we have. If I say something that's rational and logical and makes sense, people are likely to say, yeah, that's what you should do, or no, that's what you shouldn't do. That only has 0.79 logic, and I require a minimum of 0.845, right?
Right.
But it's all a fucking jungle mystery. And anything that we talk about, they're just ideas. And I could say something smart, I could say something dumb. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, all we can do is take some sort of action and cross the river while feeling the stones.
I
Like,
understand.
you know what I mean? Like, there's a
No.
lot of doctrine behind stuff, but
Okay. I mean, ceteris paribus, I get it, but I'm talking to one of the world's best jungle guides who at Jurassic Park can take out the velociraptors. So my go
all
ahead.
right. Well, Zach is here, so I'm gonna tag Zach in.
I missed part of the conversation. I have an idea of what you're working on, Sandra, but not the whole idea. My question is if it's an education centric, right? But also, hey, you can buy it. My could you proof it by just creating the Udemy courses, get it in front of as many of your target demographic, and once you've shown, right, and charge $1.99 for the class. Once you have 1,000 people paying $1.99, it's easy enough to say, hey, I've done this much work, this many hours. I've gotten it in front of 1,000 people. 1,000 people bought it at $1.99. This could be an app, because you could make the Udemy course with the parts that you have already, or any other Kajabi. There's a bunch of those platforms. Hell, even just a YouTube, part. But
Right. I have a very bare bones app put together, courtesy of an app website. I have to. I'm going to have to do more testing on it, but according to the testing that it does, it will work. And I can see that if I can get a person to go in from the other side, I'll have a person there. So I don't know if doing it that way probably makes more sense. On the other hand, what you're suggesting, but I do have some infrastructure that I can work with. My question was, Mike was talking about, well, people also have to learn okay, now they know rudimentary about Bitcoin. How do they then get from get to an interface where they're deciding, okay, I can buy Bitcoin, whatever else. So I was thinking, well, maybe there should be the educational component is on one side where if they want to learn more, they can, but maybe the first lesson should be, okay, this is the basics. These are the options you have to be able to buy some right now. How about we teach you, depending on what you choose, wallet A, exchange B, whatever method you choose. Do you want me to teach you about how to do it through that method?
Yeah, I mean, I think that so like I have Webull, Robinhood, MetaMask. I have all those platforms, and most of them offer some sort of education, and even some of them, like you get Bitcoin or Shiba Inu at one point for just taking their classes on what crypto is. And so I think that what the difference is that I don't think boomers are downloading those apps and then doing the education. If they are downloading it, most people are downloading those apps to YOLO their money into AMC or other high risk stocks. So I think that there is a thing for education first, purchase later versus the purchase first, education second. But I think that you have to proof it with a very simple of even just recording a YouTube video and seeing how many people watch it and just starting to send it to as many people of your age demographic that you can find and get in front of, even with just a basic landing page, and then see how long they watch the video. If they stay and watch the whole thing, obviously we got something. If they watch 5 minutes of it, right, then we have to see if it's the video itself or the content that they're just not interested in. Because I think that there's a underlying assumption that people in that age demographic um, want to be part of this, the movement, versus the other side of the coin is there's some that want to and they already are versus those that aren't, don't even care about it. So I just, that's the assumption that you have to proof out and prove that once they're educated, they will want to be a part of it. So.
Right. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, I just think that like what you're working on is good, and I think that the steps you're taking are great. I just think that it can be much quicker at like $1.99 for a Udemy course and just put it in front of as many people to proof that it works or that it's that your age demographic wants it, and then you can go from there with the higher level stuff. And at $1.99, it gives you the money to survive while you're proofing it out.
Yeah, but no, I see what you're saying. Well, that's another thing I want to check first, whether or not the age demographic I'm aiming for even goes to those sorts of sites. And
well, so you won't need to if it won't matter if they go to those sorts of sites. If you put it in front of them,
well,
they'll go if they're interested, right? So if you put a landing page that says, hey, I'm let's just say like I'm a boomer buying Bitcoin, let me show you how to buy it too, right? They're going to go, oh, here's someone that I relate to. I'll just click download, pay the $1.99, and then I'll get the course, right? So that it's just they probably aren't going to just discover Udemy or YouTube or all these things on their own, but you can build that landing page and then just put a YouTube ad on a, like, let's say you join 12 Facebook groups based on that are focused on boomers buying Bitcoin, right? There's probably Facebook groups or other Facebook groups like that, that you can target and just kind of put in those ads that no one likes, but they're super effective, of saying like, this is how I changed my life buying Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. Join me here and look at my class, and I'm doing a free course, whatever, right? And just start your funnel there, and then proof out that, because if you get 10,000 people signing up, then there's obviously something there. So just something that could be done in the next 72 hours. If, all of effort can be put onto it, you could really proof something of a course.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. But I mean, I'm wondering if a course like that, like an introductory course, like I have someone coming in for the first time, they saw the email, they got it on Facebook, whatever. I'm wondering how, I don't want to overwhelm people. And the problem with Bitcoin is it's overwhelming. You're either telling them about the apocalypse, or you're telling them that it's like some decentralized currency, digital energy, blah, 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 blah. Like it's just a lot. And I think the way that it's showcased needs to change a little bit for it to be a little less overwhelming for people my age, and who don't have the engineering background, or advanced education, that sort of thing. But there's just, I don't know. I guess I still have a lot to think about on this, or maybe I'm overthinking it, and that's the problem. I don't know. What do you think, Mike? Am I screwed?
No, I don't think you're overthinking it, but I think you're overthinking some of the parts that could be simplified, and you have the right skepticism where it does need to be complicated. But Bitcoin is a complicated thing, but that's why, if you can make it, I don't want to say boomerfied, but if you can simplify that down, right, and say, here's what you really need to know, like, look at your portfolio over the last year, or over the last 5 years versus Bitcoin over the last 5 years. Here's what it is, and then also, hey, by the way, this is the long-term implications of it. And having the apocalypse is a pretty good reason for people to want to learn more. So, I mean, you have to create that sense of urgency if you're going to sell any kind of educational stuff, right? Like, that's the first rule of course marketing. So create that sense of urgency for it. So I think you have the right topics. I think it's just put it out for even free, right? And see if you can get 100 people for a free course, 30-minute course on introductory to Bitcoin for boomers. Just join a bunch of Facebook groups, be like, I just finished my course. I want to give it to, the first 100 people for free, and see how long it takes you to get 100 people to say yes and do the course. And then you can get feedback. Hey, was the course not enough? Was it too much? What did you think? Adapt your initial entry point and then go from there. Did I break the internet?
Maybe.
Oh, damn it. I had a good line too, and I delivered it, and my mic wasn't on. I was going to say, no, you didn't break the internet, but you may have broken my brain, and that's a good start for a disaster of a podcast, isn't it? Take it away, Mike. Damn it. It's been a day, man. That was
Well, I'm literally just telling you what everyone's told me about what I do, that I need to put it into a course and then get people on. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't want it to be a course, right? It's not about the education part. It's about the one-on-one. That's the only way it works for, like, I'm not here to help. I'm here to help business owners and entrepreneurs, but that's not like my main group that I want to help is current active duty people. So if I just make it a course that anyone can do, it doesn't help them. So if this doesn't scale, then sure, I'll just go to a course and I'll just become like wealthy off of this idea. But like, I want it to be something larger for the people that I work with. But what you're talking about, if it's going to be an app and it's not, doesn't need to be meat bodies teaching meat bodies directly, then yeah, proof it with a course first, and then you can always adapt it into an education platform or app. So because it's true. I just talked to 2 startup founders who are looking at logistics and supply chain of helping the elderly or helping them learn certain topics, right? Like I went to the Apple store and it was like the entire place was packed with, you know, generations older than I am trying to figure out how to work their computer or their laptop or their phone, right? So like if that's necessary, then obviously what you're trying to do is also necessary. It's just, is the market share, is your TAM big enough to need an app, or is it just a course that you can run with?
Right. Now that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And you're right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm always here to shoot down people's hopes and dreams. Uh, no, I'm kidding. If you have any other things, just shoot me a message. Because it really is what everyone's been telling me to do, and I've looked into a lot, so I have a lot of information on the course development and all of that. Um, oh, but I am gonna play with my daughter while she's up here in this skyscraper of a play place. Okay, she's running from me, guy. Bye.
Bye.
So, Sandra, I hope you're more confused than when you began.
Well, that's easy to do. So I don't know if that's a benchmark that we should be
Yeah.
looking at. I think what he's saying makes sense. I don't know how many boomers are going to like download an app from the Apple Store about Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like it needs. But I was never planning on just having just the app. I wanted to have it like a web-based, interface. Because most people are going to use their computer or their laptop in that age group, I think, or an iPad. So I'd have both, is what I'm
An
saying.
iPad would be an interesting thing because I've seen a lot of my older generation really latch on to iPads, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, so I have to go check my mobile app because I had it on my laptop. It was up and running, but I didn't check it on my iPad or my iPhone. So I'll have to try that out. But once I have that, I kind of agree with what he's saying too. So I'm confused in the sense that, am I putting the cart before the horse? That's the problem. But I think that if I can, I guess what I'm thinking of is trying to test the app and have the educational component through that and the website, and maybe email people to get them to come to the website or get the app and then go from there. Maybe that's taking on too much at one time though. What do you think? Just try and see what happens.
At the end of the day, like we use all these words to mask the fact that we're just trying shit out, you know? And apparently that's, as below, so above, right? There's a lot of people who were like virtually fucking worshipped until yesterday. Does that make sense? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ask most people, um, you know, if FTX was going to be around for the next year, I'm betting that 96% of people would have said yes. And the answer is no.
I smelled something rotten about them from the start. Something wasn't
I mean,
right.
look, the guy's name is Bankman. What the fuck did we expect? You know what I mean? It's like staring at us in the face. But it's just like we live in a world where a lot of people who are smart with a lot of degrees and all of their pedigree to be successful are being fucking wiped out. Why? Because they flew too close to the sun on wings of leverage.
Right.
So if these large people are getting wiped out, then it means that all of that intelligence isn't really all it's cracked up to be.
Okay, so no app, and I use sticks and pieces of I don't know, something I find on the floor to teach Bitcoin. And no, I'm kidding. It's maybe I'm overcomplicating things with the app, and I just start with a web-based.
Look, you're not going to. If you fail today, that doesn't mean you're going to fail tomorrow. And even if you fail today, you're not worse off than Sam Bankman-Fried.
Well,
And that guy was on the top of the fucking digital currency universe. You know, that guy was fucking hitting home runs, pointing, calling his shots.
I'm sure he'll be all right. I mean, hopefully he's smart enough to put some aside.
Believe me, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people that had every reason to succeed that didn't. And I think that, right?
I see what you're saying.
Mhm.
Can I rephrase it back to you? So are you
Yeah.
saying that I'm spending so much time in the pre-planning, trying to get like in my mind, say, okay, this is definitely going to work because I've covered everything in my mind and I feel good about it. Like I think I sense what you're saying. Like I just got to go and fucking do it.
Intelligence isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean? Like, really.
maybe it's a little.
I think intelligence is a little overrated when it comes to these types of things.
I guess I don't want to make an obvious mistake that someone's already made and can say, no, don't do an app first. That's a terrible idea. Start with this first. And I know that people have different opinions about that sort of thing.
See, I think in any case, I could see a quantum future where even if you went left or right, both could still end up being successful or failing.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So It's like we live in this world of probabilities, and we're only trying to increase our odds.
I'm glad that you guys talked about boomers. I don't consider myself a boomer because I'm always going to be like 32, but it makes sense to kind of look at it that way because I can't teach Bitcoin the way I teach to like Bitcoiners. And I think I've been doing that, and that's not good. I mean, I simplify a bit, but like I did some TikTok videos that were based on memes. Like a lot of older people are I don't think they're going to be able to relate to 3 Spider-Men pointing at each other.
The reason I bring up the boomers and the traditionalists is because I believe it's an untapped market.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? And I don't think that millennials are necessarily all that good at understanding the buying habits and consumer behavior of that market. And if they have done it, they're now bankrupt, right? Voyager Digital Holdings, as far as I know, had the best interface for crypto. But apparently they're no longer solvent, right? And then people would have said Coinbase, but now people are worried about them. And now people are, you know what I mean? Like, and so if you listen to the Twitter spaces, what the most experienced people are trying to tell everyone is that don't trust fucking anyone with your shit.
Right.
And so if you could show these boomers and traditionalists how to not trust anyone with their shit within reason, even if they didn't decide to do it, I think they would appreciate, so that because what happens is you'll end up talking to someone and showing them stuff, but then over the course of the next 30 to 60 days, there's going to be an event that says, oh, fuck, I really need to act.
Right.
They're going to see something in the news. They're going to see something about the Bank of Japan and the yen. They're going to see something about the pension funds in England. They're going to see what's happened with the pension funds in Greece. They're going to see the writing on the wall. Right? Not financial advice.
Yeah.
Not to say that they're going to act on it, but there's going to be a time when a traditionalist and a boomer is going to ask themselves, if I did want to own a very small fraction of Bitcoin, maybe one Satoshi, how would I do that? Just curious.
Right.
And I think if they had that answer, but I just think it's a missed community, not
Yeah.
financial
I
advice.
mean, if I focus ads on AARP, there's a very good chance I'll
Oh yeah,
grab some
yeah,
people.
yeah. It's so simple, right?
Right.
You know, crypto shopping channel.
There you go.
It could be the crypto shopping channel. If they could buy it over the phone, and maybe it's a phone service that shows them how to set up a wallet, and you call it the crypto shopping channel, and the only thing you offer is BTC.
Yeah, really. It's like it's your shopping channel for one thing. That's all you get.
Yeah, that's it, and it's just Bitcoin medallions spinning, in a glass case.
True. I mean, I'm trying to think out loud here now because now we're getting away from just education. I mean, that is education. Just I was thinking more along the. Yeah, let's go back to that for a second. So it would
There's
be
education, and then there's helping people take action on the education, right? We're
right.
balancing those. I imagine a lot of these boomers and traditionalists, they know how to use Google, right?
Right.
They know how to research stuff, right? A lot of the stuff that we think we're going to tell them, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're watching the news, they're seeing the inflation reports, they're concerned.
So I guess a separate class would be okay. Now that you're interested in buying Bitcoin, here's how you do it. And there are, each class would be going over one option. Like, do you want to buy it by phone? Do you want to? Can you buy Bitcoin? Yeah, I know there's SMS. Can
Well,
you?
you could. If you figured out how to help boomers buy it by phone, you could dial for dollars.
Well, I mean, let's not be esoteric here. I'm asking you. Do you know anybody that has a telephone service where they can buy it over
I
the?
don't.
Okay. Huh. I didn't even think about it that way. I just assume everybody would be like, "Oh, I'm going to go on, Coinbase or whatever." But yeah, I guess some people would be like, "I'd rather do this over the phone. How do I do that?" Huh. Is that something that involves, and it's not security, so they don't? Mm. How about that? I guess they could buy it over the phone, couldn't they? What do you think, Mike?
I think you have enough information to kind of take the first step,
Yeah, I know.
which is to validate the idea.
Right.
But if you're able to onboard a boomer or a traditionalist, then we can, take the learnings from your interactions to know what they really need to learn. Right? Is it education? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's they don't have an interface that works for them.
Okay. Cool. I mean, do you think that? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm working in. All right. I got it. I understand. Well, we'll find out if I understand. So I guess I'll do a class, get that up, and then maybe fiddle with the app a little bit later. Like I'll do the website for the app and put it through the app, and then whore myself out on Facebook a little bit in groups, and maybe I can do an ad run somewhere if it's cheap enough. And I don't know. I got a little more to work. It's a lot, but I got things to think about. I'm going to do it. I just have to map out in my brain the best and quickest way to do that. If that makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. So I'll have to retool everything, and I'll have to go back and do like boomer videos that don't involve anything not out of the bounds of what they would you know, because I don't think memes are going to work for that sort of education. And then I have to find old people. No, I'm kidding. No, but I think I can handle the rest. Yeah.
So I'm just designing this website. Featured image.
Is this the website for the voice course, or is this for the phone service? You're
No, this is for just the unicorn launching website.
Oh, no, you said that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Well, just make sure you have a failure section so that you can talk about, your disaster of a podcast with Miss Ware.
Yeah, I think we're gonna keep that.
This fucking check mark bitch. Jesus, she's like a stalker. I mean, she just keeps coming back, and we try to help her, and she just fucks it up. All it's that check mark. No, I don't know. Makes for a decent comedy anyway. Now, hopefully, I guess I'll. I'll tell you what. One of the only things that I make lists for are for ideas I think that can eventually make money or result in a better world. Everything else is like I'm just gonna try to remember everything, But it's just funny because usually, like, if I have a list, I'll draw like lists suck, or like today I drew build a cat on the top of my list because I'm a big Bloom. I love Bloom County. Bring Bloom County back. So I had built a cat up there on my. I hate lists of lists, and I'm not following my list anyway, like I should be. I kind of am, I guess. I got to revise it. Damn it. So anyway, but yes, when it comes to ideas that can result in something useful or money making, I like to plot out, like, okay, well, this is what I think needs to happen. So that's why I'm asking you some of these weird questions. So,
I've learned that just because I put words in a good order, like the thing even with the voice acting masterclass, right? And editing videos, like you can have sound bites that sound coherent, but are actually factually wrong, you know? So I'm always kind of wary about my own advice.
Well, it's a matter, I guess, is it a matter of fact checking that, or?
There's no fact checking in emerging spaces.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? Because everything's changing, and macro and micro and micro and macro. It's like, for the most part, most business schools teach the same thing, right? And we'd like to think that there are certain paths that are well trodden that you can follow that will lead to predictable success.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I can't.
But essentially, Dave Snowden pointed this out, where we never ask the people that failed what they did and compare it to see if the people who failed did the exact same thing that the people who succeeded did.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right?
Right.
So we like to think that, this group over here did these things, and this group over here, well, they failed because they didn't do those things. Well, maybe they did the exact same things, and maybe it's just probability. I don't know. Right?
I think it has to. I think ideally I would love to say, oh, God bless America and the flag, and the American dream. People are exceptional here, and 99.9 are successful because, gosh and golly, they're amazing people. But in reality, when you drill down, you find out, and I don't have a problem with it, by the way. You find out that they have a lot of connections and friends, and that they take the finished product and they pump it, and that's why that person. So for example, if I have, terrific friends, but the other person has better content, but he knows nobody. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare that an education course would go viral, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah. So I don't know. It's a lot to think about. You know, I have limited resources and time at this point. It's something that's going to have to get worked on along the way, and go from there.
That's all anyone is ever doing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Absolutely.
And we do the people go on speeches and they talk about, oh, look how smart I am, and look all you right, and then tomorrow you realize, oh, that person was fucking lying. Does that make sense? Like,
Most
they
of
were
them are.
just straight lying.
The best one that I got advice from an Irish lawyer, and he said, Sandy, there's one thing you got to know about your clients. They're all fucking liars. So
Yeah.
treat them like pork chops. Like, they're just a piece of meat. Don't get emotionally attached to any of them, and don't be don't assume that they're good people just because they're in our office. You know what I mean?
Right. I see a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't listen to him, so yeah. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
No,
I
like,
mean,
your heart wants to believe something different.
yeah. Right. Sure.
But I've chosen to just try not to believe my own bullshit. I've read a lot of books, and a lot of them say different things. Sometimes they say the same things. Does that mean one is wrong and one is right? Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, at the same time, if I talk to, person A who has no real life experience, and I talk to person B who has done this sort of thing before, knows what, you know, knows people who are in the industry, I expect to get a better level and quality of information from person B than person A. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
That would seem to be the case, right?
Right.
But it's not to say that a PhD has more to offer you than a homeless person.
That's very true. Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean?
Because if I was smart, I would just drop all this stuff, sell my Bitcoin, and just flip stuff on eBay, because I'm better at that. I know I'm good at that. I've been doing that for years.
Maybe you teach a flipping on eBay course.
Well, I can do that on the side. But yeah, my mentor, Paul Haig, is one of the best flippers in the world, and he does flips that's usually $250,000 or more on textiles and antiques and things like that. So there is a big game. I mean, there are people who do flips that they sound funny and silly, and then there's the people who do the real flips. I don't have that sort of liquidity to do that. He must be making a killing right now in this market, but um, I like finding. I'm a hunter gatherer sort of girl. I like to go to a thrift shop, find things, and that I know there's bread and butter stuff that'll make me, $30 net. And then there's the other stuff you find that's just unique and amazing, and you have this huge like run. Like I could tell you story after story that, all fact, and it's a great feeling. But I think I rather fight the good fight with the noble cause, even though obviously it's at great cost to myself, because I know that I'm good at that. I've done that for years. But such is life, right? Victor, what's up?
Hey, I just wanted to reflect back that it never occurred to me that like in the crypto market that the like trad or boomer generation might not have such a strong on ramp. So I wanted to just highlight, thank you for raising that as a like a potential place to offer services. That's really cool.
Yeah, and it's maybe it's because I'm 50, right? So I don't see myself as, am I a boomer, Mike? Tell me if I'm in the age group first of all. I'm 50, so it's 45 and excuse me, 45 and over, right? Boomer?
I guess technically you're on the border of Generation X and Boomer.
Gotcha. Okay.
Same
All
shit,
right.
you know?
Well,
I
that's a
first
relief.
learned about these demographic cohorts like in 2004, right? So sometimes I do the calculation as if it's 2004.
Oh God, yeah. I think I might be in the very end of X, beginning of Boomer, but um, yeah, I mean, it's something that I don't think a lot about because I don't like being this old. But the point is, I think Mike's right. I think it's a an area that needs to be um, taken advantage of because there's really, as far as I can think, there's really nobody in that yet. My issue that I'm thinking about out loud is, okay, I got my product. I know I can do that. But once I get that, how do I get people who barely use they might use Facebook, and they probably do. Um, how do I make sure people see it? Because I can do ads and stuff all day long, but how do I maximize my chances for success? Those are the things that I'm thinking about. Not because I'm lazy, or I just need to be careful in what I'm doing right now because of my personal life. So the more answers I get, so that I feel better about doing it, that the happier I'm going to be. But I realize that, like Mike was saying, there's sometimes you just have to. I'll use the farmer version. Shader, get off the pot. All right, so I scared him off. See, we did it. We're doing a disaster here, and I'm proud of myself. All right. Well, I'm gonna. I guess I know you're working on something, Mike, and I don't want to be a trouble. I got things I probably should get working on myself. So I'm gonna I'm gonna head out. I appreciate the help. I, I
Yeah,
don't I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do something. You know.
people might say that they have more thought or consideration that goes into their actions. We're just throwing darts at a board.
Uh, I don't know. I don't like being so fatalistic, especially when I'm already at the end of my rope.
Yeah, I wish I had words of comfort.
No, I don't want you to.
You know?
I prefer
Yeah,
honesty. I prefer honesty myself. But all right,
yeah.
I'm grateful, Mike. I really am.
Oh, it's good. Let's figure this out. We'll fall forward on our face.
Or on something anyway. But
Yeah.
I'll put. How about this? I'll put something together. I'll try to get it done tonight. I just have to like really boomer it down, and I'll send you like a rough to just to give it. I'm not asking you to tell me okay it's perfect. I'm just saying just give me a very general, unhelpful opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Okay.
I'll go from there with based on the discussions from today, and yeah, and see what happens next.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mike.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Syndicate Disaster of a Podcast, Season 1, Episode 1. Not as much of a disaster as I was hoping for, but, here we are. The message for today is that reason is not enough. Logic is not enough. Rationality is not enough. Math is not enough. I saw a quote that said that the doctrine is now open source, but the execution is still proprietary. The doctrine is open source, but the execution is proprietary. We go to school and we get all this experience, and that's supposed to make us better at making decisions. At the same time, what hasn't happened in years can happen in a day. And as we approach the singularity, fortunes are made and lost faster and faster. We're seeing the crypto financial gods and oracles drop one by one. Started with Luna and Do Kwon, and I moved on to Celsius, that European guy. The European guy? Seemed like a nice guy. Then there was Suzu with 3 Arrow Capital. Then there's Steve Ehrlich with Voyager Digital Holdings Inc. And now Sam Bankman-Fried with FTX. Turns out he had a Soga Sosha. You know what a Soga Sosha is, right? A Keretsu? No? You don't? Sam Bankman-Fried owned 2 organizations. Fundamentally. FTX, which was an exchange platform, and Alameda Research, which was a quantitative trading platform. It turned out that a third of the Alameda balance sheet in terms of assets was powered by the token that ran FTX. So let me run that back. Sam Bankman-Fried owns 2 companies. And one company has a third of its liquid assets held up in the value of the underpinning token that runs the other company. What do you think happens in this scenario? Yeah, that's right. Binance owns them now. All of the people that I've mentioned are not stupid people. They're very intelligent people. And if intelligent people can fuck up, give yourself a break. Because you're not that smart, right? Hey. What do you think, Web3? Reason is not enough? Good decisions can lead to bad outcomes. Bad decisions can lead to good outcomes. We live in a probabilistic space.
I think that we are seeing the end of the hopeful era of companies. By that I mean we've had 2 decades worth of investment in companies that hope that they will change entire industries, and that they just need to get to market share, and then everyone will rely on them, and then they'll become profitable when they can charge what they want. Like, I'm just thinking, even like Sirius XM radio, right? I am okay with Sirius XM costing me $5 a month. I'm not okay paying $30 a month. And I believe that company only survives because of the number of people that just don't call them and say and take the hour-long conversation or 2-hour conversation it takes for them to go, oh, let us give you this introductory price again for another year. I think that there's a whole group of people that have SiriusXM that are just paying on it because not because they're okay with paying that amount. It's that they're too lazy to call and do the ask pain to cancel or ask for a lower rate, which they pretty much give you every time. And so, I don't know. I wonder how many companies are surviving on the idea that people are, I don't want to say stupid, but people are lazy. And they're even
Well,
lazier.
people have the luxury of. I mean, people have the luxury of stupidity when capital is easy to borrow at low interest rates.
I don't think
But,
that
you know.
anyone has, I don't think anyone, especially in this inflationary era, have any luxury at all when it comes to their money. I think that I think there's a lot of people that want to complain about inflation and not having enough money, but they don't want to make the hard choices like canceling their SiriusXM membership and or sitting on the phone and doing I don't know. I'm just like,
Well, I mean, those subscriptions allow them to ignore, which is the real service.
yeah. And I know
right?
that
I
know that if I scale and build Win the War to what it possibly can be, I will have to fall into the same subscription thing, and pretty much survive on people's mistakes to not cancel. But I don't know. I feel like there's a whole bunch of companies.
Or maybe there's value in people saying, you know what, I wonder if there's ever been a software as a service company that suggested to its customers who were non-active, hey, maybe you should cancel this.
Or, hey, do you want to go down to our free service?
Yeah. You know, it doesn't seem like you're all that active. With how you use the site, you'd be more better off with holding on to that money than paying it to us. That said, if you need some more high value help, well, then we have a value ladder.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I know that there's apps that will allow you to help you go in and find all your subscriptions and then cancel the ones you're not using. But then you're paying for a subscription to cancel subscriptions, which, I mean, what kind of jumbo shrimp is that?
I mean, if you have kids, and they sign up for shit.
Yeah. I'm just, I don't know. I think that, we're leaving the era of companies that have these golden dreams of, we're going to build a company with this mission, and the mission's not going to be make money. Or the public believes that their mission's not to make money, and behind closed doors, yes, it is. But now they're in direct conflict with the mission they've told the public versus the mission they really have. I don't know.
There may be fatigue, investor fatigue.
Yeah.
I
just think there's I don't know. I don't know if this is or if it is still coming, but there's a reckoning around the corner. And I think it's also in this education services environment as well, unless it becomes more structured. Right? If I went and hired, let's say, Tony Robbins personally to be my coach, right? Well, that money is probably well spent. It's probably not as valuable as it would be if I started down the ladder and then, as I'm making progress, I can up the value of mentor and coach that I have, right? I think that a lot of people are right now paying for information they are never using, right? Be it courses or classes or whatever. They're just buying it to feel like they're doing something and they never use it. And so unless we can get people to start using it, I think those are the first things that are going to go um, in terms of money spent and all of these, like, I also have the other side of the coin where I think that there's a lot of individuals who are doing quote unquote side hustles that are not filing any taxes on that money and or any documents with the IRS. And with the increase of 80,000 IRS agents, I wonder if that whole industry is about to get a hard lesson in uh, government reach.
Well, I mean, the basis for it was created with Celsius. So Celsius went down and was in bankruptcy proceedings. And someone, through the bankruptcy proceedings and discovery, leaked all of the wallet addresses of the people, like everyone. So it's out there, the wallet addresses. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, that just means like there's a whole bunch of people who are like, I mean, and I think that there's a lot of information that people don't know. Like, am I able to write off my crypto losses for this year on my IRS paperwork? I don't know. Do you? Does anyone? Does my accountant know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Uh, I don't know. I just think that the whole landscape of everything is drastically changing at a clip in both directions, right? Like, we're changing in a direction towards Web3 and this quote unquote idea of decentralization, but also away from some of those same concepts. So I don't know. I don't know where it goes. I don't know. That's my thought.
What's going on here?
What's up, Hugh?
A lot.
Ambiento.
I like that. As Mike would say more words.
Yeah, I heard that. Eric Weinstein said that in an interview. He said, "Say more words," and I haven't figured out a more concise way to say more words and say more words.
Keep talking.
How's the book coming out with all the sketches? I love the fucking sketches.
Oh man, fine. Just the thing I've been doing for 25 years. So
Yeah.
I was never really in a hurry to get it done. So kind of like, you ever saw that movie, The Shawshank Redemption?
Mm-hmm.
Remember he had that little rock hammer. He's kind of like kept digging away at it. Digging away the hole.
You could always do a volume 1.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna put out groups of about 250 of them under a single pane of glass as a single piece, right? And then,
okay.
And then when you buy the piece, let's say you're a rich man. Let's say you're Mark Cuban or something like that. Well, besides the piece, which you'll pay a fortune for, you'll also get a private edition of all the cartoons in the coffee table book to give out to your friends. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you say, well, Hugh McLeod made this for me, and he made the book for me too, so I can show off my little piece of art to people. Okay. So it gives and then, yeah, coffee table. Yeah, I mean, unless you're Dilbert, it's really hard to sell cartoon books. So you have to do it for the, you have to do it for the love of it, I'm afraid. Unless you're part of the machine, and that's a different proposition.
Unless it's an NFT.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Yeah. I was lectured to talk about fucking crypto as well. I mean, Jesus, you guys all deserve each other. You know.
Well, we were talking about Sandra was asking for advice, and I was trying to tell her, like, I can give you advice, but it doesn't really mean anything. What the fuck does anyone know?
Yeah.
Everyone's just
Well,
reaching in the dark.
I've been obsessing about metaverse. The
Mm.
reason being, I can't decide what problem they're trying to solve because they're not solving any of my fucking problems.
Are they creating personalized gardens of Edens? You know how the secular religion?
Yeah, there's always a serpent in the Garden of Eden, you see, and if creating paradise is possible, we would have done it millennia ago. So
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you look at how people play games, like, they spend a lot of time designing their own Garden of Eden.
yeah, and then they try to make it work in the real world, and it fails like in a week. So there you go. You know.
Well, what's funny is that now with, like, people with AI, they're populating the gardens of
fucking hell,
Edens
you're talking
with
about
eaves.
AI now, are you? Yeah.
Well,
You know what the metaverse reminds me of? Avatars. They're like glorified blow-up dolls, basically. They're like digital blow-up dolls for lonely people. You know, oh, who wants to look at my little avatar? Who wants to play with my avatar? Wacka, 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 wacka.
It's like the metaverse is everyone's inflatable castle.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, no, not even inflatable castle. They're like my avatars are like little inflatable dolls for people, like little, those porn dolls you buy in the back of magazines for like really sad people, you know, because they can't get a real relationship going. They get an inflatable woman, you know. Well, that's what these little these little metaverse avatar creatures are. Also, I was thinking about that. It's like, you know, the metaverse makes more sense when you live on a 400-acre estate compound in like fucking Hawaii, surrounded by, you know, barbed wire, like Zuckerberg does. You know.
It's interesting because Zach was talking about how, you know, if people want to save money, you know, the last thing they'll do is cancel their Netflix subscription. And I wonder if the Netflix subscription is like the digital therapy. Or, you know what I mean? Or like...
Well, I mean, I like Netflix, I guess. I mean, I like a little bit of TV. I mean, I mean, it's entertain. I mean, it's just like, it's like, it's effortless entertainment. I mean, it's like, it's not bad. You don't have to write your own novel. You don't have to paint your own picture. You can just like, it's kind of passive, but it's also written by very highly educated people, so it's quite intelligent, I guess. Intelligent enough.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly more intelligent than you are, or more intelligent.
That's
more
for sure.
intelligent than the average schmo. I mean, you know. So I mean, TV is written by smart people. I mean, they're assholes, a lot of them, but they're still smart. Well, they're no worse than tech people. I mean, Jesus. I don't know. You know, you want happy people. What you go to a prosperous time in the world. I don't know, 50s or 80s or something like that. And you go to like a nice prosperous village of neighborhood like Brooklyn, where you got butchers and bakers and candlestick makers, and they're all going about their business, getting on with their lives. That's what makes people happy. You know, just getting up in the morning and just, you know, saying hi to your neighbors and getting your donut and coffee and just carrying on like real life. That's what makes real life lived well makes people happy. Living in these kind of fantasy worlds doesn't make people happy. These metaverses, you know, cyber sex rooms and cyber sex chat rooms and places like that. I mean, no one ever got happy there. I mean, you know, I don't know. It's like, you know, you don't need. It's like, oh, you don't need family and hard work to be happy. You just need some heroin and some magazines to beat off to. You're fine. No, that's not true. I don't know. So I'm kind of looking at the metaverse in the same
It's a taste of happiness every 3.9 hours.
for every yeah. Well, I mean, I look at the metaverse the same kind of entertainment value as the Playboy Channel. Just like, oh, who cares? There's no real deeper connection there. Now, okay, now if you're handicapped and you're stuck in Antarctica and then you're desperate, okay, I can understand the need. You know, you're stuck in old folks home and you want to you want to just talk to other people who aren't other old folk home detainees. Well, okay, okay, there's a compromise there, but to think it's preferable just to being in your prime, living your best life in real terms, I think it's just stupid. But the thing about Mark Zuckerberg, he's been so long since he had a real problem because he just, he makes, he had a problem. He just writes a check and goes away. You see what I mean? So he doesn't really think about real problems. He hasn't had a real problem in like 20 years. What would he know what a real problem is? Whereas, okay, the guys who founded MailChimp, they had a real problem. They're building websites. They weren't going to make any money. And so when they built MailChimp, who are they building for? People with websites weren't making any money. Bam. They solved a real problem that they had themselves. You see what I mean? The metaverse doesn't solve any real problems except for like really fringe. Adults don't want to go avatar meetings. They don't want to put on avatar headsets and go into virtual meetings. They just want to. Grown-ups don't act that way. You know what I mean? I don't know. I could be wrong though. I mean, there's so much weird shit out there now. I think I'm losing the cultural war anyways. Apparently, women can have dicks now. That wasn't true when I was a kid. Just my 2 cents. What about this Sam guy? What's his name? Sam Bankman-Fried. He just lost 94% of whatever $16 billion is worth. Wiped out in one day. Complex.
Well, what's crazy is that Binance went from saying, we're going to sell everything, we're going to sell all of our interest in the underlying token holding up FTX called FTT. And 48 to 72 hours later, rather than divesting of their entire interest in the company, they now own the company.
Okay.
In 48 hours.
So
the CZ goes on Twitter and says, hey, we're selling all of our FTX. And that caused a bank run in the market, so much so that SBF needed to be bailed out. And who bailed him out? The guy who said he was going to sell all the tokens.
Oh, well, no good deed goes unpunished, huh? Well, I mean, not any of it was real money anyways. So there.
Well, so here's how it's set up. Sam Bankman-Fried owns 2 companies. One is called FTX. The other is called Alameda. FTX, the company, runs on a token called FTT. Okay. Sam's other company, Alameda, a third of its wealth, liquidity, is wrapped up in the token that runs his other company.
Okay, so does that mean he's fucked or what?
That's where the 94% haircut comes from. Okay. Because both of his companies were propped up by one asset. And when the largest exchange in the world said, we're no longer going to hold this asset, everyone sold the asset. And basically, imagine 40% of your liquid reserves are based on an asset's value, and that asset gets wiped out.
Well, aren't there there's a Ray Bradbury story where these American Turks.
Oh, man. Ray Bradbury is a deep cut.
They're down in Guatemala or somewhere like that. They're in some kind of Central American jungle somewhere, in some village.
Was it the Invisible Man? No, the Painted Man,
Illustrated
the
Man.
Illustrated
That's
Man.
another story.
Ooh,
Yeah. Anyways,
great,
so
great
this
author.
author, so these American tourists, let's say circa 1960, they're down in like some Guatemalan village, like just getting some local flavor, eating tacos or whatever. And all of a sudden, there's a nuclear war back in America, and all of a sudden, these fancy folk, their dollars aren't worth anything anymore,
Hmm.
and they had no way to pay for anything because their dollars are not. I mean, who cares? No more United States, so there's nothing to back up the dollar. So they're basically all their money they had with them was turned to paper. So they have to get jobs as dishwashers in this kitchen in this cafe in this
Hmm.
taqueria. I don't know. It's a bit like that, where you're just kind of like, currency has to be based on something, or else it's not worth it something. I suppose. I mean, um, and it's like I'm old enough to remember the new economy, which was a buzzword in like the late '90s, and we all knew it was never going to last. But the idea was you could get in and get out soon enough. You'd make a killing. That, that,
And it's a lot of survivorship bias at the end of the
yeah,
day,
yeah,
right? With
yeah,
that stuff.
oh yeah, yeah. And a lot of people got taken. A lot of people lost their shirts. Um, but it was never real though. So
I bet it feels like a loss.
well, I mean, you could have taken that Bitcoin and converted it to dollars and bought yourself a nice house, and then somebody would have paid you a lot of money for that.
I know a few people who did that a few years ago.
Okay,
You're like, okay, I want to buy a house. Now this house is here. Sure, it could go to 100 gajillion dollars, but what would I do with that 100 gajillion dollars anyways? But buy a house.
right.
So here we go.
Well,
Let's
it's
buy a
like a
house.
friend of mine's brother. He would play with Miami Dolphins, and the first thing he did when he got his contract was buy a house. Because that's great. Because next season he was dropped, but he still had a house. Whereas a lot of
Hmm.
the cats who who he signed up with, they spent their first year on partying and buying Porsches and Lamborghinis and you know baby mamas and bottle services and all that kind of stuff. You know, the whole rock and roll lifestyle, baller lifestyle. But he decided he put all his money in this one big house, and so when he was cut, he didn't lose everything. A lot of these NFL players lose everything because they've got really expensive outgoings and no way to replace them if they leave. If they lose their contract with the NFL. I don't know, same thing. Yeah, it sounds like your friends were smart.
Lots more than
Yeah,
me.
I think a lot of it depends on your level of addiction. Whether you gamble, you have a gambling gene or not. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the like I know some people that rode Dogecoin. They rode SHIB. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never bought any crypto.
Um,
I'm too old. Yeah.
when I saw how manipulated the markets were,
Yeah.
I stopped looking at it in the same way. Not to say it's not going to be a part of the future, but let's not get wrapped up in the price going up. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I can understand like if I was a Chinese oligarch and I had to get my money out of China, I'd buy some Bitcoin if I could.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or Russian, I'd do it. But if you're American, there's no real reason to do it other than speculation. You know, I mean, it's just there's a speculative aspect to it, and usually people who play the speculation market get whacked in the end. It's a bit like being in the mafia. It's a jolly life until it isn't. You know, so one day you get clipped from behind. I don't know. Uh, No, I'm not saying most people who play the market who speculate get whacked. Most amateurs who play the market get whacked. Most day traders get whacked. There are exceptions. But... Hello?
Mm.
That's,
No,
that's
I'm
what I'm
here.
saying. Now, I'm thinking
Oh.
about more crypto. No, I'm thinking about crypto and the metaverse is I just don't see what problem they're solving. I mean, Facebook, I saw a problem they're solving. Not a profound problem, but it was a problem.
Well,
MailChimp, I can see what they're doing. Etsy even maybe didn't do very well.
the core promise of crypto is the escape from inflation. Promise being, the main word. Go over here and your money will be eroded less.
Well, isn't the way
Your value will be
isn't the way
preserved.
isn't the way to preserve your wealth is to keep on investing in new stuff, so you have different payoffs. Or like
A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't realize that trees don't grow to the
right,
sky, and because they're not involved in finance, they don't realize that since 9/11, we've had rock bottom interest rates. I remember a guy said, I asked him, what do you think about Bitcoin? He's like, well, we've never seen it uh, perform during a period of rising interest rates. And he was true,
yeah,
right? Again, that's not to say what's going to happen. It's just to say that we learned that there's a lot more leverage in the market than anyone would have ever dared to imagine.
yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree with that. We bought this house. I live in a nice house, not a big house, but a nice house. And we bought this house when my daughter was 2, thinking we'd sell it when she was about 6 and then buy a bigger house. But we can't do that now because the big houses have they've gone up by $300,000, and also the interest rates have on the mortgages have gone up double. So so us buying a bigger house tomorrow would be like us buying $1 million house 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? The interest rates are we got our house for under our mortgage for under 2%, no, under 3%, and
Mhm.
that's the universe that we're used to. You know what I mean? And now we have this new world where like things are gonna be like 7, 8, 9, 10%, and that's a whole different world. So, but who knows? Maybe the prices will go down, and you'll be able to get houses for a steal and just pay high mortgage on them. I don't know, but I don't see myself buying a big house anytime soon. It's not because I can't afford it, because I just want to be fleeced. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't want to be asked rate. Like when you move to San Francisco, you're basically volunteering to be ass raped. Ditto Vancouver. You're I don't want to be I don't want to be
Yeah.
ass raped. I don't want to be ass.
Hmm.
That's why I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. If I lived in Canada, I'd probably live in Waterloo or somewhere like that. I wouldn't live in Toronto.
Hmm.
Hello, I'm Peter.
I'm like half an hour away from Waterloo.
Okay, I'm just saying I'd live somewhere like that, or I live in like
Yeah.
where what's that? Winnipeg, Lake Winnipeg.
Hmm.
I live out or Regina. But I wouldn't live in fucking Vancouver. I don't want to pay 3,000 a month for 4,000 a month for one bedroom apartment. Not even if I could even if I could afford it, I still want to do it. So I don't know. So what do you think? What do you think of crypto these days? Then
Um, I I think of it from the perspective of somebody who used to work in finance. Like I had my financial licenses
mm-hmm.
before. And when I saw the market for what it was, I gave up my licenses and left the industry. So largely my opinion hasn't changed, which is, the retail guillotine swings and it's never not been
Well, it's
swinging.
a bit like that. A bit like what Eddie Murphy said in that thing the very highfalutin, commodity traders in risky business. Said
Mhm.
you two sound to me like a bunch of bookies. Will it go up? Will it go down? Place your bets, gentlemen.
Well, the thing is, it's digital lottery tickets,
Okay.
right? But there's always going to be, especially during inflation. Ugh, right? Who doesn't want to, believe that? Nobody wants to believe that their exit is another trap.
Right.
It's dark, I
Well,
know.
what
But
Alan Watts said. He was great, brilliant thing he said. He
mm,
said the trouble with people is everyone's trying to one up the universe. You know what I mean?
right.
Oh, this time will be different because I'm smarter than everybody else. So I'm gonna. Like the people who ran Enron, they thought, yeah, this is gonna last forever. Or Bernie Madoff, yeah.
And it did seem like it was going to last
It lasted a
forever.
long time until it didn't.
It lasted a long
Until
time
it didn't.
until it didn't. What hasn't happened in years can happen in a day.
Yeah. What was that thing? How'd you go bankrupt? Slowly at first, then suddenly.
Yeah.
Well,
And again, when you're in, when you're like in charge of like selling financial products, you have to learn this shit. And then when you see it for what it is, it's like, oh fuck.
yeah.
It really is pretty dark, isn't it?
Well, there's no there somehow. I mean, I don't know. It's actually really interesting. I don't know if you ever read some of the earlier stories, like people who set up fake currencies in Jamaica in the 17th century and stuff like that. Back in the early days of the colonies, how they didn't have enough English pounds, so they had to invent new. They had to invent new currencies, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have any. What they used to do, they used to take quarter dollars, silver dollars, and slice them into quarters. That's where you get the word quarter from,
Right.
So or a bit, which is like an eighth of a dollar. So shave and a haircut, 2 bits. That was the old catchphrase. Or there's a guy. I found out more about him. There's a guy who he ended up a Scottish guy. Of course, he's fucking Scottish. Yeah, he ended up in France in the 1800s or the 1700s, and he owned the largest private bank in France, and he had his own currency. That was kind of like the Bitcoin of his day. Everybody wanted a piece of him. But of course, it all ended in tears. He had to like flee in the middle of the night with with the torches and pitchforks after him. And he ended up like in Jamaica dying of syphilis or something. One of those great stories. I'll have to find out. I'll see if I can find out about it. But I mean, I'm looking at what's going to China. I'm looking at like what China's trying to create its own alternative to the U.S. dollar, so they don't have to pay, so they can bypass the SWIFT system. And it's like that's not going to work, is it? Because you're the fucking Chinese Communist Party, and everyone wants to get their money to flying fuck away from you because you can take it from them anytime you want, and you usually do. People want they want somewhere safe for their money. You know what I mean? I mean, from a Chinese point of view, right? If you get your money out of China and get to America at a 50% loss, that's still a 50% loss. That's only 50% loss. It's not like a 110% loss, which is what you get in China. When they take everything from you, then they go after your family and take it away from them as well. For them, getting your money out of China at 50% is a win. That's why there's so many that's why there's so many expensive condos in Vancouver. Because they figured we can just, just get the money. We can just get the money to Vancouver and, you know, buy these overinflated houses. That's okay with us. At least we'll have a fucking house in Vancouver. Because yeah, if you own anything in China, the reality is nobody owns anything in China. The Communist Party owns you in China. That's who owns everything in China. They just let you pretend to own stuff in China. So I can understand why Bitcoin would be a hit over there. Although have they outlawed Bitcoin in China yet? I bet they have. Hello, you there? Oh, never mind. Okay, I talk too much anyways.
Oh, I just got a call. Sorry here. And so, in conclusion, wouldn't it be nice if making sense made sense? It'd be nice. It'd be nice if making sense made sense. It would be nice.